Donk.
Hey everyone, welcome to Bounding Live. My name is John Trent, and I am joined by my co-hosts, Script Doctor, Drew Taylor, Jorge Arenas, and Donald Edmonds. And we will also be joined later by Philip Pratt. He is running a little bit late, but we will get him on, especially to talk about Gambit and Star Trek. So how is everyone doing tonight?
Wonderful.
Awesome.
I'm doing great.
Good. Script Doctor, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. I've been waiting for this all day.
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock. It's always a good day on Wednesdays at 9 o'clock. So I guess we can just kind of get right into some of these MCU rumors. I think Don you want to take the charge on this Omega Red rumor here. Let me pull up your article. That was basically the only one I didn't. Oh, here, I've got it here. So let me share the screen here so we can see this.
Omega Red.
Is it working? There it is.
You want to explain to me how that makes sense really quick about like Omega Red and no other like Weapon X people being around?
Oh, it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So this is coming from 4chan and the Marvel Studios.
I think it's legit.
Spoiler subreddit.
I think this rumor is legit.
You think?
Yeah. I do. I think this rumor is legit. I believe this one. I believe this one. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling. I think this one is legit. It makes sense to me. I know it's not comic accurate, but it makes sense.
Well, yeah, it makes sense from the standpoint of like, people have like figured if something was happening in MCU, where's Omega Red? People have wondered, where that is. So they're wanting the character in there, but sure, people want it to make sense too.
All right, so let's break down this rumor. So, you want to break it down, Don?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is coming from a 4chan little leaker. Says that he saw one of the episodes, and he goes into a full detail of what he saw in the episode. And one of the key points that he put out was Falcon and the Winter Soldier have Zemo as kind of a hostage because he has some information about a group called the Alchemists. And in order to find them, they go over to Madripoor. We know Madripoor's in there because we saw the leaks of the Madripoor flag outside of a little hotel.
It's a symbol. I don't think it's a flag.
Well,
it looks like it's the Madripoor symbol, and it looks like it's like mounted on a wall.
Yeah,
in a courtyard. Right here.
Yeah.
See that? This little symbol right here. Okay, sorry.
But yeah,
Continue.
so in that scene, there is they meet up with Batroc the Leaper. So I guess they're going to pull him out from Captain America Winter Soldier. And they're going to meet up with Omega Red. Which version of Omega Red, though, is kind of where I kind of like. I want to say it's going to be a version before he gets the carbonadrium tendrils. That's the only way it could work. If this is the serial killer Arkady Rosevich. But I digress. So they meet up with those two, and then it becomes kind of like a cantina shot of Easter egg who's who in the Scum and Villainy cantina there in Madripoor. Who's who?
So, for people who don't know who Omega Red is, do you want to give us some background?
Longtime X-Men, primarily a Wolverine villain. He's
From the Alpha Flight days, right?
Yeah, from I think Alpha Flight. He's also stationed in the Soviet Union.
He wouldn't beat Sasquatch.
So he is a mutant with believe, healing powers just like Wolverine. The Soviet Union government understood this, so they gave him an implant of the carbonadrium tendrils, which is their kind of knockoff adamantium. Because the carbonadrium has a metallic poisoning to it, he needs to use the carbonadrium tendrils' ability to siphon life in order to sustain himself. And he's been making some big news lately. I guess there was some deleted scenes, and people found out that Omega Red was actually supposed to be used in Deadpool 2. And then he just recently made an appearance in the comics for Adam Kubert and Benjamin Percy's Wolverine #1. He's an agent of Dracula, which that means Dracula's back into the comics, but I digress again. But it's kind of an exciting time for Omega Red, and kind of timely that this kind of news came out about that supposed leak of that particular episode.
Yeah, so the leaker also said that Sam Wilson is not allowed to be Captain America due to the Sokovia Accords and his choice.
A lot of people said that.
Right. So they were just saying this again as well. To side with Captain America Civil War. Sam does trust U.S. Like, this stuff has been out there already. Sam does trust U.S. agent to take over the mantle. And U.S. agent wants to do a good job. He just doesn't realize he's part of a bigger plan. And they also said that William Hurt's Thaddeus Ross will be in the show as well. And so we've kind of we've heard a lot of that stuff there. But then they do say that Zemo escapes at the end of the episode in a speedboat. And then he also says that Sam Wilson gets shot. I assume he doesn't die, though. We had a question. I saw it earlier. Blue-Eyed Scorpio asks, so is Falcon going to be Falcon, or is it the transition of him becoming Captain America because he has a shield, right? Or is it just Falcon with the shield? So everything I've read is I don't think he's actually going to become Captain America at all.
Same.
Anthony Mackie made it clear, what was it? I think it was at D23 where he said he's not going to be Captain America. He's the Falcon. Sam Wilson will always be the Falcon. He's not going to take up on a new name. And I believe him on that. I don't think this is a Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi scenario where he's lying. They have talked about discussing Captain America, there being a black Captain America. And I think with the recent casting of Carl Lumbly, who was Martian Manhunter voice actor in Justice League Unlimited, and all of those kind of like DC animated universe stories.
Mantis.
Right, and he was in. Yes, he was in. He was in Mantis.
Anyone old enough to remember that show?
But so there's speculation that he will be playing Isaiah Bradley, the Black Captain America that was introduced. I think it was the 2003 story, Red, White, or it was like Truth, Red, White, and Black, where he's also a World War II veteran. However, his origin is quite horrific. He was recruited into the Army, I believe, and then the Army basically takes all of these African American soldiers and puts them through basically Nazi experiments, but in the United States, to turn them into super soldiers. And Bradley is the only one that survives, I believe. There's like 5 of them that survive the initial experiments, and then the others kind of end up getting killed, and they killing each other. And Bradley's the only one who survives. And then he goes on a mission to take out this German facility that also has like the German super soldier serum. And then it's also a concentration camp, and he has to he basically wipes it out. And then he gets cornered in a gas chamber. They kill everyone else but him. He survives because of the super soldier serum. And then Hitler tries to recruit him to join the Germans. He refuses. He's taken to like a prison. In transport, he escapes. And then he eventually makes his way back to the United States, where the United States treats him as a criminal and a traitor and locks him up for 17 years in Leavenworth before Eisenhower eventually pardons him. And then he has a family. And in the modern times, he meets Captain America, and he doesn't look like he's aged at all, despite not actually being on ice like Captain America. So his super soldier serum might be more like potent than Captain America, where he doesn't really age. So I think that could be interesting. Oh, people are looking at my tabs. Yeah, I got. These ones over here are all like these are all for the show. So
A lot of reference right there.
I mean, this stuff is all like for sharing on social and stuff, and this is for making my images.
Author Stephen says we need to have an intervention. Me and Jorge need to grab you and have an intervention with you.
Yeah, I could probably close some of these. But yeah, so I think that I don't think that Sam Wilson is going to become Captain America. I think they're going to introduce. I buy into the rumors that they're going to introduce Isaiah Bradley. They talked about They talked about that the show would look at the reaction to a Black Captain America. One of the writers took over like the Discussing Film Twitter handle and like confirmed that. So I definitely think that's something that they're going to do. I think it works. And that's why I also think that this is why I believe this Omega Red rumor, because you have like, if they're doing Isaiah Bradley, then you have like the horrific experiments that he was doing. And then you're going to have on the other side, Omega Red with the Russians like experimenting on him. And then you also have, we saw in Captain America Civil War, that there was already like other super soldiers that the Soviet Union was experimenting on. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Omega Red might be another super soldier that they were experimenting on, part of maybe a different group that Zemo found out about. We know he found out about this other group that Bucky was part of. So I don't think it's unheard of that there would be another group that Zemo would discover, especially after he's finding out. He found out like he's supposedly finding out this new code word to like shut down Bucky. What do you guys think? Am I just completely crazy in that theory, or?
I think it's deeper than that, actually. And good evening, guys. How y'all doing?
Hey, what up?
I, for one, think that Disney doesn't make mistakes. There's no such thing as a leak with Disney and their level of security. Like 2 weeks leading into the not just the Omega Red rumor, but before that happened, there was this. I noticed. I'm not sure if anyone knows. There was this uptick in Gambit stuff going on. You had creators tagging his name and talking about him. There was that weird. I think it had to do with a video game, but then the Gambit character took it over on Twitter, where he was he was trending for some reason, and then we had a Donny Cates thing saying he would like to write a Gambit series. And then not too long after that, there was rumor of Captain Marvel introducing an X-Men character, and that typically means Rogue, or it's either going to be Rogue or Mystique, in my opinion. It can't be anyone really else. And then this Omega Red. I hope so. And then this Omega Red rumor pops up right around the same time, where Marvel's talking about reintroducing Omega Red in the X-Men comic books as a citizen of Krakoa. All this happening at around the same time. It's like they're trying to like gauge what's going on, and not to mention this year we have the Falcon and Winter Soldier show coming out. You have WandaVision coming out, and there's already rumor that the WandaVision is going to have some kind of role in introducing mutants to the MCU.
Ooh.
And I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot. You can call it a coincidence, but I don't think that happens with Disney in terms of when it comes to getting information out. And I think they put it out on purpose to see what the reaction is going to be.
Have you seen
they're putting out feelers and doing a litmus test.
Have you read the new X-Men comic?
Say what now?
Have you read the new X-Men comic?
X-Men number 7?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. So there's Wanda in there too.
Yeah, the Pretender.
The Pretender.
The Pretender. So I think there's a lot going on, and I think it's a lot simpler than we're making it out to be. Like, yeah, there are rumors, but I think it's just Disney playing with us, to be honest. So, but I'm excited. It makes sense. Omega Red being in Captain, being in the winners, being in this new series. Also, again, it makes sense to pick because of the subject matter.
Right.
And the introduction of mutants in general, I wrote in an article before that there's only about 3 ways they can do this, and this is one of the ways. And by this, I mean basically snapping their fingers, and all of a sudden there are people with powers. So that I don't think there's going to be any kind of like people traveling between dimensions or time travel. I think you're going to have fully fleshed characters, and something's going to happen, and these normal people who are people who were normal before now have abilities, and they have to deal with that. I think that's where they're going with this. Otherwise, it's not going to. I mean, everything's moving way too fast to be setting this up in any other way. So, I'm not sure your opinions, guys.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, honestly, it really does. They didn't buy Fox and the X-Men properties for no reason, right? So they got to find a way to introduce these characters one way or the other. You know, they have Disney Plus shows, they have the movies, and sending out these signals and testing out the fan base. Different ways of introducing them is going to probably be their best bet to figure out what direction they do want to go, because they're not going to sit on these characters forever, right? They do have a long-term plan for, especially bringing back the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and other characters.
And just so everyone else knows what we're talking about, the Lords of the Long Box, someone revealed to them that Disney was putting reserves on certain characters to make sure they're not used elsewhere or in general, I guess for copyright or patent reasons. The Thieves Guild, the Assassins Guild, Marauders, Kendra, Etienne Morse, I don't know how to say this name, Pig, and Kendra and Bella, and I think I said Belladonna already. These are all Gambit characters, and they're also looking to start shooting something in New Orleans within the next year or so. I think if you know anything about X-Men, those are all Gambit lore characters.
Channing Tatum's movie?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't think Channing Tatum's going to stay with the character.
I think that's 6 years overdue. That's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he wants to stay on as a producer, I'd be all, because he's a real Gambit fan. He's been a Gambit fan, and I trust that he's interested in it enough to make sure the movie doesn't go, veer off the rails too much. But I don't see him as Gambit anymore. Maybe 10 years ago, but not now. I mean, it's a little late.
We'll see. But another thing that add in also, you have Iger leaving Disney too, so it's a really good time to play the shifting game with the company,
Kinda
right?
Still there though.
Well, he's there,
Yeah,
but not as there, right?
Well, he's in charge of everything now. Technically, that's what it is. He just gave this over to Bob Chapwick, and he's now Bob Chapwick's boss.
So
it's almost like a discrete promotion.
It's kind of a promotion, but he's not running the day-to-day. He's not making all the decisions anymore. He did an interview on CNBC yesterday where with him and it was Iger and Chapwick, and I forget what the title he is, but he's basically going to be making creative decisions.
So he's Walt.
Yeah, he's not doing the administrative decisions like he was doing before.
Yeah, he's not going to be making a lot of the business. He's not going to be making the day-to-day business decisions, the operations decisions. He's not going to be making those decisions. It's going to be more creative decisions, which is what I think he was doing anyways. And I also think, especially with Star Wars and everything he wrote in that book, when he was the one who admitted to like trashing Lucas's scripts, the one going to Lucas and telling him that he trashed his scripts and they weren't doing it that way. The one who was basically who basically admitted that he lied to Lucas that they might use his scripts, but he already had a plan on what they were going to do for the first for that Force Awakens, even though their plans for the other 2 movies obviously didn't exist. So I do think he is involved heavily in that creative process. We also had him kind of talking about how he was intervening with Marvel Studios back in 2015, where he moved Feige under Alan Horn and away from Ike Perlmutter. So I think he's already kind of there with the creative decisions. And I also think that might be one of the reasons why he might have been removed from the CEO, because I'm not even sure if he, like, they're saying that he's going to be this creative person, but I think it might be just like a dead man walking type position where, yes, he's like this whatever executive director or whatever, but he's really not doing anything, and Chapek is in charge now.
And this is less than 10 weeks after The Rise of Skywalker debuted, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that time, you have to take a look at the timing. Like the end of the quarter is coming up for their business.
So they already had their meeting, and their investors call was a couple weeks ago. They lost, like, their net income was down like 600 million, I think. So over $500 million from the previous year quarter. And then I also want, like, this is why I have these tabs open. So today, big news. I was trying to be prepared today. I have a lot of these tabs open. So Spielberg is out as director for Indiana Jones, and they're already talking about Mangold. These obviously Spielberg's probably been out for a while if they're already in talks to replace Mangold. So who knows how long Spielberg's been out. This is another Lucasfilm director being canned under Kathleen Kennedy. So you have this happening here. So this is a huge change. If you see in the sidebar here, I've also got this up too. You've got this Lizzie McGuire, if this loads, Lizzie McGuire series is now being stalled on Disney Plus. And that's another production problem. You have all of the Star Wars problems with the Cassian Andor rumor, it being postponed to next year. Obi-Wan Kenobi officially postponed till next year. And then you have this story here from the Hollywood Reporter. Disney's bold $200 million gamble on Mulan. The stakes couldn't be higher. I was looking at, I closed that tab earlier, but Box Office Pro is only predicting that this live action Mulan film is only going to do like 40 million opening weekend. Things don't look good at Disney, and I think that's why they are making these changes. I think that it is Iger is a dead man walking, and because they made this right, like it was like 2 weeks after someone's got something going on with their microphone. All right, we're getting some feedback, but I definitely think it's 2 weeks after this that they had this investors call, their investors report. Stock was like going down. The Star Wars deal looks like completely backfired. The Fox deal is looking like it's going to backfire now too. I was hearing something that like they're 3/4 of those Fox films are being canceled, and they're like the assets that they got from it, they way overpaid. So a lot of these big deals that people are like, these trades are saying like, oh, Iger did all this like great stuff. A lot of it is actually looking like it's kind of not looking that it was that great in the long run. And then we're only seeing like 26 million subscribers to Disney Plus. I was shocked when I was looking at their investors report. ESPN Plus, which is a live action sports app, only has like 4 million subscribers. I thought that was way
That's
low.
minuscule.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It might have been a little higher. It might have been 6 million, but the fact that it wasn't
small.
wasn't double digits is just insane.
Let me explain something really quick, John, because you alluded to the ESPN thing. ESPN, that whole thing is a problem because of the fact that they went and changed ESPN's entire programming philosophy. I want to say about 5 years ago, and it was all SJW sports coverage, and then that's like what it was. It was all just like these hybrid talk shows that they had on there, breaking down sports, but putting in like this deliberate social justice slant to it, and it turned people that wanted to traditionally watch ESPN for sports and analysis off. So ABC itself is losing a ton of money in Disney on ESPN because of that. Now ESPN just got a new CEO in there, and they're quickly changing things around, and they're axing a bunch of those shows now and trying to turn a direction back and take some of the politics and social justice junk out of it, but it's already too late because anybody that was an ESPN viewer before isn't coming back. That's why viewership went up so much on like Fox Sports 1 and some of the other alternative networks out there, because nobody wants to watch ESPN anymore. And again, this is a case of, for Disney, too much political slant blowing up in their face. And it's on every front for them right now. And it seems like with this change, their head is still buried in the sand, though, because I don't see how this guy coming in is going to be any different, really, than Iger.
Yeah, so he's a 30-plus year. I guess it's like 30 years, because I think he's been with them from '93.
Yeah.
So it's close to 30 years. It's around 30 years. Disney guy. He's been with them. I mean, I would assume that's like half his life, or maybe just a little less. So yeah, he is a Disney guy through and through. They didn't bring anyone from the outside. I mean, from what I understand, Disney does promote from within, so that wasn't like unheard of. And the press release was really trying to, if you look at that press release, it was really trying to say like, oh, this was in the plan all along. But like, when I was looking at their Q, I think it was Q3 or Q4. I think it was Q4 call. They didn't talk about that at all. I don't even think the Chapek guy was on the call. So I think that's complete bogus, and I don't buy that at all. And if you look at the CNBC interview, Iger looks like a deer in the headlights, like he was caught off guard by this decision, and I think he was. And I think this reflects a lot of what's been happening under Disney, like you're talking about with ESPN. That's under Disney. Star Wars and Lucasfilm is under Disney. The stuff that's going on with the Disney Plus, the Fox deal, I think all of that stuff is contributing to why this decision was made. And I think it's signaling that, hey, the Disney is making some bad moves and they need to correct it. And we saw that with a lot of they had huge capital investments in the parks as well. And I'm not sure that stuff has paid off yet, and I'm not sure if it will.
Feeling pressure from.
Well, they'll also be losing money for their park in China, right? Because of the coronavirus.
Well, 2 parks are closed in China. They actually talked about that in CNBC, and they were just like, "Well, we can't really do anything about that," which I agree with that. They can't. That's kind of out of their hands. With
That's an act of God.
yeah. I'm not gonna blame them for.
No, we don't blame them. It's not helping any situation, of course.
Just want to give a big shout out to my dear friend Raquel out there in the chat. It's good to see you. Awesome. But the thing with this is, I think it signals a bigger problem, and that's why it's so important with us, with what we do here at Bounding, because every day, we're the people that have our heads screwed on with common sense. Now, you take what's I see Don over there. You take what's going on. It is a symptom of a huge problem, and I think now finally these companies are scrambling around and realizing, like, we've done way too much painting ourselves in a corner with social justice. But problem is, they're putting people in positions and making changes, but what's really going to be the aftermath? Something similar, I'm sure, is going to happen soon over at CBS. Look what's going on with Star Trek, what's going on with everything else over there.
Oh man, we're jumping to all of our topics.
Well, I was going to say, real quick, back to Disney real quick. I mean, Drew, you have a point there to an extent, but also it shows that just because you're a large corporation doesn't, the bigger you get doesn't mean you get more protection. The bigger they got, the more liabilities they ended up, the more fronts they ended up having to deal with between Star Wars and Mulan. Mulan by itself, between the star making comments about Hong Kong early in the fall, and now the coronavirus in China. were being hit from multiple fronts, not only because of ideology, but because of bad business moves. They just got too big too fast, and it was quite obvious that Iger wasn't up to the task to administer a massive company of that size, and it really showed with some of the decisions because it looked like he was more invested in being creative than actually being an administrator.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right about that, Jorge. I think you hit that spot on too. I mean,
Don't get me wrong. I mean, the SJW stuff does not help by any means, right? It turns people off real hard. But again, it could be something as simple as they didn't have the right people in the right areas when they were expanding as much as they did, especially with the acquisition of Fox last year finalizing. It was obvious they weren't completely ready for it. They dumped half of the staff from the studios, about 40% last year.
Yeah.
They rebranded Spotlight, and now they're trying to scramble to integrate Marvel with the X-Men properties and the Fantastic Four properties. So there's a lot going on in that house, and there doesn't seem to be a chief there, leading people coherently.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk about that Fox deal, I mean, that looks like that all they've got out of it was a lot of the Marvel stuff. I think
it was not bad.
They could have purchased that separately too.
Right, and I think they got Avatar. I guess we'll see if that's actually franchise worthy. Aliens. When was the last good Aliens film? Again,
1986.
Yeah.
He said 1986. Wow. That's true.
Die Hard. I think that I don't think that franchise survives without Bruce Willis. I don't know. Like I said earlier, I think that they, and Jorge was saying, they took on more than they can chew with Fox. But I also want to get back to something that Script Doctor was saying. This does come out their biggest release was Rise of Skywalker, and despite it making $1 billion, Forbes was calling it a box office disappointment. I think it might have been a loser. I think it actually might have lost money too, with all the reshoots and everything that they were doing, and everything I was hearing, and everything you were saying, Script Doctor, about them putting all those digital companies back to work at the last minute.
All the compositors went back to work. We saw virtually no marketing campaign compared to any of the other Star Wars films, which means that they probably pulled that money to pay for post-production. And I just heard through Tom at Midnight's Edge that the giant box set they're releasing of the movie is not going to have any special features or deleted scenes from The Rise of Skywalker.
That is true.
And we know that's bogus because they pretty much shot a second film in 2019. And that's not cheap.
Why. From what I understood, that's why they're not going to. That's why they're not going to have that, because they don't want people to see what it could have been, even though that script got leaked from Trevorrow.
Yep. And then on top of that, I speculate that they spent about $700 million to make that movie.
Ouch. Yeah, they limped. Yeah. I mean, we all know that they limped over the finish line. I mean, it was like, good God.
It took 6 weeks for them to cross $1 billion, I think, right?
Well, I mean, I would assume that they Trevorrow got that writing credit. I wouldn't be surprised if the contract was if he got fired, they would still have to pay him. I don't know. You were probably more curious about these Hollywood contracts, but I would assume it has to be at least similar to what we see with athletes, where they have these built-in. These contracts are built in. Even if they get injured, they're still going to get paid, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, there's some pay or play contracts. There's contracts for creative input. If they started with Trevorrow's script and then were rewriting that over and over again, he would still get a credit for it. Especially if they end up shooting part of the scenes that he wrote originally in the first iteration of The Rise of Skywalker. They would have to pay him regardless if they used it or not in the end.
Yeah, don't forget a lot of these changes that they've made, John. Just over the time, Kathleen Kennedy firing all these people. A lot of times, they have to pay for these people, to go away, because it's the same principle as you take an NFL team and they fire a bunch of head coaches in a row till they get their guy. They're still paying those coaches even though they're gone.
Oh yeah, they're guaranteed money.
Yeah, they're paying them to go away, and then it's the same thing. It's no different with the stuff going on with these companies. When they fire people, a quarter of the way in, even like a week or two in, and go with somebody else. Well, they're still got to pay that person to go away.
Well, right, and you also have to look at like just even like corporate trends. Like Iger was made whatever executive director, I think is what the title's called, but he's staying on through the end of his contract. He'll probably act as a mentor for Chapek. They don't want him in that position, but they still need kind of his. He has that experience of being in that position that he can pass down to Chapek and like get him the ins and outs of that position. Because I would assume that the position of the CEO of Disney is vastly different than just managing the parks, because he's got to manage parks, film, everything,
and the rest of the operations,
everything that they are doing. So even though that Disney might not be happy with Iger, he obviously has still a ton of what's the word? Like corporate knowledge, I want to say, I guess.
He has corporate knowledge. He's business savvy. I mean, even though some of his decisions have been kind of stupid as the 2020 hindsight would show us, but like he is pretty clever. I also think that Chapek being made the head is telegraph something, because Disney's still under investigation by the SEC for kind of cooking their books allegedly, and that's through the parks, and that's what this guy was head of for that entire time, my understanding. So now they're putting him in front of as the head of Disney right now, kind of puts a spotlight on him and no longer on Iger.
Oh.
So however that plays out, it's going to point more to him as opposed to Iger, even though Iger may have also had a hand in that.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility as well. I don't underestimate corporate leaders and their deviousness. So we got a question from a little poet boy here in the chat, and this is definitely going to be one for Don and Phil. And he's asking, Madeline Pryor, aka the Jean Grey clone, aka the Goblin Queen, has something called the Goblin Force. I want to know more information about it and who else could use or tap into that.
Goblin Force. That's what turned her into the Goblin Queen back in the Inferno. That era is kind of my a weak suit for me. I know of it. I know what it does. I don't know more about it than just like passing. Don, you know anything about that? The Goblin Force in general? It's mystical and basic. I think it's sorted from Limbo.
I know
where it came from. Something about she made a deal with some kind of demon, I believe, or something like that. I don't remember it all that well.
The only other character I have that has kind of connections with Limbo
is Magic.
So those two are interconnected. The last time I saw Goblin Queen was X-Men Blue or Gold.
Well, last time. It was probably Blue.
Yeah, Blue, where she got out of there and
it was
terrorizing the younger versions of the X-Men original team.
Mm-hmm. But can anyone else use it? It's said. I would say if it was going to be anyone, it's 3 people to look at. And from the X-Men side, it's again herself, Magic, and maybe Pixie. If they cared about their continuity, I would say also Gambit, because of what happened during Second Coming. I'm not sure if you remember that, Don, when his death side came out while they were in Limbo. He started infecting all the New Mutants with his deathly powers. Gambit. Yeah, we don't talk about it too often. It happened though. Let's not get into that anymore. It already upset me. But past that, it's not really. I'm sure. She's going to be a main villain in the upcoming Hellions book, so I'm pretty sure they're going to get into that. I think it's Jerry Dugan's writing that, so it's kind of weird. I expect it will be addressed.
Another X-Men title to take away from my wallet. Goodbye.
I'm here's my thing about all these books coming out. I'll give you 2 issues, and if you don't hook me, I'm done. So
Done. Just use your channel to talk about the X-Men books and then write off the purchase of the X-Men books.
that's how I justify myself and my wife.
I don't have enough
Thing
time
yet.
in the day to cover every X-Men book.
Just do it from your car. That's all you need.
I'm still on last week. I haven't finished everything I got from last week. I read this week's because John sent me a question. I was like, I haven't read it yet, so I went and read it real quick. I'm like, oh, that's not what they're talking about, but okay, it was a good read.
That headline was completely misleading then.
Oh, completely. I mean, Cyclops made an offhand joke, and they wrote a whole article on that.
Okay. Well, that doesn't surprise me. I don't know if you watched the video yesterday that I put up yesterday with the CBR woman, but I mean they're owned by the same company, so it doesn't surprise me at all.
Screen Rant and CBR owned? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're owned by CBR, Screen Rant, and there's like some gaming. They have some game channel too.
Kotaku?
No, they don't. No, Kotaku is.
God.
Kotaku is
Audible groans from
is
Drew.
part of the group that Hulk Hogan I think took down.
Vice Network, I think.
No,
with the
it-
lawsuit when
no, it's something else.
They were part of Gawker originally.
Gawker.
Yeah, but
Gawker,
they're
yeah.
still all part of like the other group as well. They're still kind of put together.
Yeah, well, we just know Kotaku sucks.
We're not the only ones who know this, though.
Not that we say that about other publications, folks.
So all right, let's do. I think we kind of covered the Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff. Do you think they're gonna? Well, I doubt that they're gonna have the city on the with the dragon. That's
No,
probably
that's that's too much for people's senses right now.
Hey, Pope, I think he has a follow-up question about you said Megan. Megan from Excalibur. I don't think so. She's more of a light magic. The ones that we mentioned were all characters with connections to limbo and darker magic, demonic forces. Megan's soul was corrupted, and that's why she has her soul dagger, and why magic has her soul sword. But that's wow. Do we really want to get into the whole magic story, because that's long and slowly?
No, we can. So I think I just kind of want to get back to Disney a little bit here. So this is another this is another issue here. They pulled this Love, Simon series from Disney Plus to Hulu, and this was 2 days ago. So there's a lot. Like there's so much stuff happening with Disney right now that you just that they're like the stuff with Iger and Chapek is just surface level stuff. That's not to like, it's just the tip of the iceberg. That's what I mean by surface.
It's like oversaturation to distract from something dirty.
Yeah, I think so.
Bingo.
Because they're obviously doing a lot of changes. Like we already talked about the Lizzie McGuire show. I kind of want to get into this Mulan article here, because I did find it. I thought the headline was interesting. I haven't read it.
John, I'm offended by the ad on that page. It makes me feel fat.
What's the ad?
Well, there was something when you pulled it up. It was something when you pulled it up about
on the Variety one
about losing weight. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I don't know.
Go outside and run, damn it.
But so I did want to get into this a little bit. So this was from today on the Hollywood Reporter. This was like their cover story on their website. So the high-profile remake with an all-Asian cast, PG-13 rating, and a politically charged star was always going to pose major risks. Then the coronavirus upended its entire release plan. Li Yifei, star of Disney's live-action remake of Mulan, lives in Beijing, but she's originally from Wuhan. Epicenter of the coronavirus. In January, the 32-year-old actress left China for Los Angeles to begin press for the film weeks before the virus's outbreak, which has now infected more than 77,000 people. That's official numbers. Killed more than 2,500 and wreaked havoc in her home country. She says she doesn't have any family or close friends personally affected by the disease. She left Wuhan when she was 10, yada, yada, yada. Lou pauses when asked about the outbreak. It's really heavy for me to even think about it. People are doing the right thing. They're being careful for themselves and others. I'm so touched. Let's see if there's actually, I don't know. All right. Okay, here we go. This looks like there's stuff here, right here. Disney and director Nikki Caro selected Lou from more than 1,000 experiences from around the world to star as Hua Milan, the Chinese heroine who disguised herself as a man. With the coronavirus shutting down all 70,000 of the country's theaters since January 24, it's unclear and more unlikely every day that multiplexes will reopen in time for its planned release. It certainly has worldwide and global appeal, but there's no denying that this is a very important film for the Chinese market. It's a huge blow for Disney if it doesn't release in China. Disney president. So this is just a ComScore analyst.
Can we go back to that?
And also, I don't think the Chinese are really interested in Mulan.
70.
Yeah, we talked about this before.
What?
They don't like Western media
Why does that country have
portraying
70,000
Chinese people.
movie theaters? Goodness gracious! What else do they do with that in that country?
Work.
70,000?
A lot of that.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think
They make our stuff.
We have like maybe 5,000, I think. When I see wide releases, it's usually high fours. Well, how many theaters? Star Wars was in around like 4,500 or something like that.
Yeah, that was crazy.
70,000. I mean, do they have theaters next to theaters?
Probably.
Yeah.
Or
So
theaters on top of theaters too.
So this is what is really right here. Of course, this puts added pressure on the 200 million budgeted film. Woo! 200 million. So they're saying that Mulan here is more expensive than Star Wars. This is like insane. This Mulan
More
film
expensive.
costs more than Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yes.
This is
Allegedly.
live action remakes, so I'm assuming they're just counting Aladdin, Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast. I don't think that goes for
And
Star
Dumbo.
Wars, right? I mean,
Well, no, but
that's
Star
rated.
200 million is more than Star Wars. Their Star Wars, I think they're saying is like what 170 on the
Yeah.
low end is what I've seen.
They're lying to us about it being 170 million.
Yeah.
It's more than that though.
Oh yeah, I mean, Script Doctor's saying it's probably 700 million.
Easily.
But I'm just pointing out that they're saying that Mulan 200 million is more than what they're reporting is Star Wars, which you just know is like that's like a complete joke. There's no way. That Mulan is more than Star Wars. I just don't buy it at all.
Yeah, the cast alone is a lot cheaper than their special effects, as far as I know. I mean, and the cast is pretty good, but they're not A-listers. They're not any that can warrant a huge payout. So that seems inflated.
Yeah. So it talks about here that the Lou is enveloped in her own storm of controversy based on a political social media post about the Hong Kong protests. We reported on that. She was basically calling for the Chinese government to like stomp on the protesters.
Always good press.
And then
Well, it's kind of convenient that this virus has broken out while the protests were kind of peaking.
oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
conspiracy.
Let me go get my tinfoil hat.
I mean, is it really conspiracy to just point out that the two things happen at the same time? I don't know.
Yeah, it just did happen at the same time. It's making that trade war that Trump started seem better in his favor.
So even before the outbreak of the virus, Mulan, the first Disney, someone has really got it's really annoying him. It's not Drew because he's muted. I'm muting you, Jorge. I think it might be you.
Nope. Let me see if it's me. Hold on.
Okay.
No.
I think it's Jorge. Okay. Well, we'll see. Jorge, did you say something?
I'm saying something.
Yeah, I hear it when you start talking. Yeah. You have like some feedback. Am I the only one hearing that?
I heard the whining noise every so often.
I hear it too.
Okay, yeah. Okay. All right.
Like a buzzing bee.
Exactly. It sounds like something with wings flying around.
Okay, I'm just gonna mute you until you okay, you're gonna fix it. All right, just mute yourself for now. And then unmute when you want to talk. So Sorry, it was really annoying me. Where were we? So even before the outbreak of the virus, Mulan, the first Disney-branded film with an all-Asian cast and the first to be rated PG-13 for battle scenes, would have marked one of the studio's riskiest live-action films to date. While the original 1998 Mulan was a critical and commercial hit, garnering a Golden Globe and Oscar nomination and grossing more than $300 million worldwide, it faltered at the Chinese box office. Right? See, this is what we were talking about earlier. The Chinese don't really like so. Okay, how can you say this is what I'm talking about with these? Like, this is so frustrating. Like, they literally said up here, they quoted this guy. It certainly has worldwide and global appeal, but there's no denying that this is a very important film for the Chinese market. And then down here saying that the animated film sucked in China because they didn't care. I don't understand.
History repeats itself.
It was a long time ago. Things change, man.
I guess
Not that apparently.
No, I guess not that much.
So they try and explain that part of the reason that the animated film sucked was because the Chinese people, I guess, were upset over a movie called Kundun about the Dalai Lama. I guess. I
don't buy that.
Yeah. All right, so that's just crap. Like, I just read these articles and they contradict themselves. The film has also tested the ability and tolerance of Disney, which aims to be ideologically neutral in managing global political fallout. Yeah, that's completely garbage. I already know that.
Sorry, I
They
got
would
to
have
mute.
had the PR person on that actress a long time ago if that was the case.
Yeah, it just
Disney does not make mistakes. Everything they do is calculated and thought out. I don't trust anything that comes out of that company.
yeah.
I still love gargoyle stuff.
What Don said though, you're exactly right. They're trying to, like, the Hollywood Reporter saying that they want to be ideologically neutral. Their freaking lead actor is promoting the government cracking down on the protests. That's the opposite of being
Ideologically neutral.
It's ridiculous. And they pointed out here, her action was seen by critics of the Chinese government as supporting police brutality. So they obviously aren't being ideologically neutral with that. So then I guess they talked to her and she says, I think it's obviously a very complicated situation and I'm not an expert, except you called for police cracking down on the protesters. I just really hope this gets resolved soon. Okay. I think it's just a very sensitive situation, blah, blah, blah. Who is Bailey? We must have missed something. Is that her handler? It's probably her handler. Most Chinese celebrities choose to avoid posting such political statements because of the risks to their careers internationally. That is absolutely false. Jackie Chan goes on state television and makes political statements now in communist China. This is a lie. This is a lie. There was the one. They're more worried about the X-Men actress, the Chinese X-Men actress.
Bing Bing.
Yeah,
the one who disappeared.
She literally disappeared because she made some statement and was so wealthy or whatever, and she was like complaining about like some. She was trying to like get out of like paying taxes or something with some kind of like contract deal or whatever. And they were all government.
And then she
was, like,
vanished for like 7 months.
Yeah. So this is who is it?
She came back and apologized. I was like, "What did they do to you?"
Yeah.
Re-education camp.
It wasn't even like it was on social media, and then there was like the image that we saw of her was like really blurry and like so we don't like who I don't even like. The assumption was that was her. I don't think it was ever confirmed. Did she ever come back to the States?
No, I don't think so. But
yeah,
her legal problem was tax related, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's the story.
That's what they say.
Yeah, they were saying it was tax related with her like cooking the books with like double contracts or something. So she was getting paid twice. Was what they were saying? If you believe that. Most people outside Hong Kong have likely forgotten about this controversy, but the Chinese government does not forget these things. That's true. Yeah. This is actually true. I believe that. I will think this is obviously the Hollywood Reporter is bringing it back up, so people who are reading this will be reminded of it. And I think as we get closer to their release date, I think people will be bringing it back up and reminding people of it as well, globally. So let's go on. The fact that this version of Mulan is a large-scale war epic inspired more by the ancient Chinese ballad than the original animated film may also help win fans in Beijing, but the choice carries its own significant risks. The film needs to satisfy Chinese audiences raised on the legend. Well, no, it doesn't, because they're not even going to see the film because all their theaters are closed. This might have made sense.
They're not going to have sterilization tunnels on the entry and exit.
This line would make sense before coronavirus. It doesn't make sense anymore now. Okay. Mulan also represents a leap of faith in the film's director, Nikki Caro, I assume I'm saying that right, whose previous two films boasted budgets of about 10% of Mulan's. The Zookeeper's Wife and Disney's 2015 sports drama, McFarlane USA, were each in the 20 to 25 million range. Caro was not Disney's first choice.
Wow.
Before hiring the New Zealand filmmaker, the studio targeted directors of Asian descent, including Taiwanese Oscar winner Ang Lee and Chinese homer Zhang Wen. Because I thought they were trying to be neutral, ideologically neutral, but they're playing identity politics there. Only Asian people can direct Asian films.
That's not very diverse of them.
I know. Still, Caro showcased a knack. Oh well, it looks like she's white. She looks like she's white. Still, Caro showcased a knack for representing cultures outside of her own with her 2002 debut, Whale Rider, which follows a young. Oh, amazing that people can actually do that. Shocking. Oh, now they're calling Mulan a feminist story. When I first started,
that's the way to number one.
I guess you can argue that. She's trying to get equality in the military, and be treated equal. So I can buy that.
Her motivations are driven by love. She's doing it so her father doesn't get in trouble. So
yeah. When I first started wanting to be a filmmaker, there was so little precedent for women doing this big studio work. Patty changed the game with Wonder Woman. It was like a shot of adrenaline for me as a filmmaker. Okay, typical talking points. All right, well, I think we kind of, I don't know. I don't think we really need to go any further on this. Wow, this is a really long article.
It's like a pre-established excuse for this movie performing poorly.
Oh, yeah, they're all, I think that's exactly why this was written. So I'm going to pull up Box Office Pro here.
I'm just going to wait for one of the male actors to go like, this movie was made to give a big FU to misogyny. And then that'll...
But isn't there a male character in Mulan that discovers her ruse and then tries to help her become better?
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
In the animated film, like her captain becomes falls in love with her or whatever, and I don't know. I don't think there was.
Look what they did to Captain Marvel's origin. They're not going to let that happen. So they're going to move it around to.
She's going to train the men how to fight better. That's what's going to happen, right?
She's going to go out and train herself. And
I'm a bad half Asian. I haven't seen the whole movie.
So here is Mulan, 48 million domestic. That is really, really low for
That's 98, right?
No, this is what Box Office Pro is predicting the 2020 film is going to do. 48 million. That is super low. So for comparison, I'm going to pull up the number so we can. What was the last one? Was Aladdin? Last live action, right? Was Aladdin?
Yep.
So pull up Aladdin. It'll work. This looks fun. That Rumble movie, that looks fun. I like that trailer. Got that today. Is this it? Am I here? Is this the 2021? Yes. So Aladdin opening weekend did 91 million. So almost double what they're saying is Mulan is going to do. So that is really, really bad, especially when you're saying 200 million production budget for Mulan. So yeah, I think Disney is in for a rude awakening here, coming up. They hadn't already got it with Star Wars. Oh, hey, Price of Reason.
So the
Okay.
Palestinian Arab movie is making more than Mulan, the Chinese movie.
Yeah, well, that's what it looks like.
I mean, in reality, whose favorite Disney movie was Mulan? I mean, they put a whole bunch of money apparently into a live action adaptation of a movie that everyone was kind of like, it's all right. I mean, I don't know anyone that has fond memories and talks about Mulan. It's just
I forgot it existed until this morning.
I mean, Price of Reason. Eddie Murphy's pretty funny as Mushu the dragon, but he's not going to be in the live action, and I don't think there's going to be a Mushu at all. So
sounds expensive.
Yeah, that would justify the $200 million production budget.
If they got Eddie Murphy, yeah.
Giant
absolutely.
red, animated red dragon. Yeah, animated talking red dragon.
That would be awesome. I'd go see that.
They'll have that in New Mutants though, so that's fine.
I think that movie's gonna do better than people think it's gonna do.
I hope so.
Yeah, so.
I hope so too. God.
All right, let's do. Okay, I think we spent a little too much time on Mulan here. Sorry, I sidetracked us there.
Yeah, we spent more time on it than the Chinese will.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I don't know. It's 70,000 theaters. I mean, a little time is a lot.
Oh, well, they're all closed though.
Oh yeah, that's right.
All right.
That must have been a real effort though to close that, to make sure they're all closed. That's a lot of work, man. Sorry, it's just wow. It's a lot of theaters.
Yeah, don't underestimate the power of a state power when they're motivated to do something.
It's like more. They have more theaters than we have subways in here. I mean, the sandwich shop, because there's like one every 3 blocks down here.
All right, so Batman. We got some Batman leaks. I think it came out 24. We were a little behind on this one, but I was able to find this. This Batman leak also came on 4chan. Don't hate on 4chan. It does. While I do think there's some that's crap, but there are legit leaks, and this definitely looks like a legitimate leak.
Yes. Warner Brothers is a leaker. I believe them. Those are real leaks, not Disney. Disney's on purpose. WB is their leakers. Yes.
Those Star Wars leaks were legit. That were out like months before Disney. I don't know if those were legit because those are like basically what we got, and we all knew it was going to be kind of crappy, but based off those leaks beforehand. I think you're overestimating Disney, but I think you might be right with Marvel though, because they're much more tighter and closer, and they don't let anything go. And they know. I think
we've all heard those stories about how Marvel conducts their security. So.
Well, I mean, you hear this about like I heard it. The DC people were talking about it too. They have it like locked in these rooms. I think we talked about this on a previous stream where they have these like special paper that the script's on that you like, so you can't like take a picture of it.
Yeah, they have this red foil paper that you can print on. That it's not, you can't pick up from it with a Xerox or with a photograph.
I'll find it one way or another.
Sounds expensive.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is expensive. That's why these production budgets get so high. I mean, it's usually like locked in a room with like security guards, and you have to like go through security to like access the room and everything like that. And the actors are like, they talk about it, so they talk about the process and how it doesn't get out. That's why that whole John Boyega story about like him leaving the script under his bedroom was bogus. When you had other Star Wars actors talking about like, yeah, it was in a locked room and I couldn't take a photo of it.
And no one really had a completed script anyways.
Yeah, because they were still tweaking it.
Oh yeah. So this is the latest Batman leak, courtesy of 4chan. The assumption is that this is the mayor of Gotham, and he has been killed by the Riddler. And it's hard to see because of the lighting, but this reads "No more lies," and his face is completely duct taped. And the legitimacy of this image is you see this like chair or couch or whatever this piece of furniture is the same. Looks like the same. Looks like the same piece of furniture that was Matt Reeves showed us when he revealed the day one Batman.
Yeah, it looks like it could be like a leather sofa in like a mayor's office or something.
Yeah. And then we also had looks like Warner Brothers was copyright struck the image when it was shared on Twitter, which just basically confirms that it's true.
When there's a takedown, that means true.
Yeah. So this looks like this is the mayor and he is dead, and this also confirms it kind of makes the other rumors that we've seen seem to be true. So this is what the 4chan leaker explained along with this when he shared this image. They said Riddler is the main villain. He's a hitman whose identity is unknown and who leaves riddles at the scenes of his crimes. As for who the Riddler is working for, the leaker reveals it's the Penguin. He's hired by Penguin to take out a series of high-profile targets, but Batman manages to keep up with his riddles, to Riddler's surprise and excitement. Riddler gets increasingly obsessed with besting Batman intellectually to the point where he turns against Penguin. It wasn't obvious the leaker as one of Batman's biggest goals is figuring out Riddler's identity. They also detail that the Riddler has a very different origin story from the one in the comics. He's an ex-intelligence operative gone rogue who erased all records of himself. So that's definitely different from his origin, which is you can see here.
Edward Nashton, right? Yeah.
Edward Nat. Yeah, he has a new name too for in the movie. So he's not Enigma, and he's not like a. In the comics, he was originally just like he was basically just bamboozling people. He would like figure out puzzles beforehand, and then he used like fake puzzles to trick people. And then he decided that he wanted to take on law enforcement because he was getting bored with everyone else. But yeah, that's what this is. And then you had those previous leaks. Where there was a funeral scene for the mayor of Gotham, and then a car spray painted with Riddler's iconic question marks crashed at the funeral. And during the wreck, there was a man inside the car crashing through the windshield with a bomb tied around his neck, reading DOA, which stands for detonate on arrival. So that this leak kind of confirms the previous leak, where we see the dead mayor, and we know that this other leak had said that the mayor had died, and it looks like he was assassinated by the Riddler, which means that there might be Penguin might be making a play for the mayor, or the mayor was trying to crack down on crime or something like that. So that could be that does look like an interesting story. It's one we kind of seen a little bit before, I guess, in Batman Returns, and then even in Gotham with Penguin becoming the mayor and all that stuff.
And then the Adam West series too.
Yeah, so this isn't like a new idea, but it does kind of confirm what Reeves was saying, that Batman is trying to solve a bunch of murders. It looks like a lot of those murders are going to be committed by the Riddler, and that's who he's kind of tracking down, and he's going to have to put his detective skills to work. So I do like that. I like the concept. I think these leaks to me make me more interested in the movie.
Yeah, I just hope the riddles are really intriguing, because the ones in Batman Forever were not.
Yeah. I mean, the way that this guy's saying it does sound like, what does he say here? Or where is it? He says that Riddler gets increasingly obsessed with besting Batman intellectually to the point where he turns against Penguin. So yeah, I do hope. I mean, I hope they came up with some really, really good riddles.
The best part of the Batman Forever for me was the soundtrack. Back when they had good soundtracks for the movie, that was a really dope soundtrack.
And for some weird reason, every girl I've ever met has loved that Seal song.
Wait, what's wrong with the Seal song? "Kiss by a Rose"?
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just,
it's just hold
strange.
your tongue, young man.
It's just strange that the girls I know that have no like for Batman love that Seal song. And I'm like, it's from the Batman soundtrack, and she's like, what?
I mean, got him Heidi Klum, so
I
he
don't
must have been doing it right or something.
Yeah, man.
For 20 years, I think he got her. Yeah.
They're still
Yeah.
married, aren't they?
No, they split. They split.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this looks good. I'm interested in this. I still don't think the bat suit needs to be improved. I'm not a huge fan of the bat suit.
But Catwoman's suit looks pretty good. They released a mask photo a few days ago.
I didn't see that. Where did you see that at?
Tom had it on Twitter, and I think it was linked from a Hollywood Reporter part. Zoe Kravitz in the Catwoman mask.
Oh, is it just this here?
Yeah,
There it is. Yeah. Okay.
that looks really good.
Yeah, that does look good.
Oh wow.
I'm down with that.
Hello.
Yeah, I like the collar.
True.
It's like, where was that effort in the bat suit, right?
Yeah. No, that looks really good.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
Exactly.
Even the claws
Exactly,
look
dog.
good. The only thing maybe is like, I don't know. This looks like this some kind of like armored, maybe here.
Maybe it's just like reinforced leather or something.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it looks like she's got a strap here, so she's got like this looks like a strap. Hard to tell.
carrying
Does she have
bag or something.
Does she have a Power
Yeah.
Girl window?
It looks like she's just unzipped.
I
It
mean,
looks like it zips up all the way.
take what you can get. Gee.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think I've ever seen Catwoman with a Power Girl window.
I
It
don't.
usually just has the zip that goes low.
I feel like
I like that. That looks good.
I feel like with the costuming and stuff, she's gonna make a pretty good Catwoman.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, look at those eyes and everything. You
Right.
already got like the sultriness and everything. The way she's looking at you, yeah, looks good. Yeah, I hadn't seen that. That's really cool.
That's yeah. There it is.
There's a better that's almost like ripped straight from the comics. Not that comic, but yeah, that looks really good.
Well, she says she was taking inspiration from Michelle Pfeiffer's, so
That's a
I
good
mean,
Oh,
source.
that's performance-wise.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that was performance-wise, not.
but
She
the
has no
suit's
say over
looking
the
on
costume.
point.
Yeah, the suit looks really good. So yeah, that has me hyped. Yeah, no, I like that a lot. All right, so we're going to switch to Star Trek, so I won't be talking as much.
Man, me and Jorge can go over this.
Who loves what Kurtzman's doing?
They killed Egypt.
Yeah. You know, Manu shed light on that when we interviewed him. He shed light on it, and it was, you know, and when this happened, actually, with the episode, and then Manu's come out in the last couple of days, and he said, "Hey, look, I you know, he kind of feels like they burned him, you know, in a way, because at the time, you know, John, I don't know if you remember him talking about it, if you were watching that when I was on that panel and we interviewed Manu that played Icheb. He had at the time supported Kevin Spacey when he was going through that stuff, and you know, Manu stood by him, and he felt like, yeah, that kind of burned some bridges, and how apparently they don't forget that stuff, and so they absolutely just you know, sort of soft blacklisted him, so he was never going to get a call back no matter what. But then they just out and out like completely disrespected him and killed off the character. I mean, too, that was
Without calling him in to play the character. Like,
Yep. Yeah. So
So they brought him back just to kill him?
They didn't bring him back.
no, they didn't even bring him back.
They killed him off screen?
Nope,
killed
they
him
hired another
on
actor.
screen,
Oh,
but it was a different actor.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is a guy that's been known for the role for a rather long time, you know, for at least 2 or 3 years. I think it was a 2-year run on Voyager, wasn't it, Jorge?
He's not in here.
On Voyager, he started after season 4, so season 5 until the last. So 2 years. Yes.
Yeah.
So 2 years, which is almost a 20-year-old show.
You're talking about a star. I'm a Star Trek junkie, so go ahead.
Yeah.
You can talk to me.
But yeah, that's so that was the reason, the original actor, was upset. But it's Picard right now has really turned a lot of people off. The fandom is very split on it. Obviously, it's because it's just a crappy show. But if you add in all the dark tone, the graphic gore, the violence, the cursing, everything else in a nutshell, it's not traditional Star Trek, and it's very just dark and dystopian around every corner. There's no underlying tone of hope.
No hope.
That is what Star Trek fans want. That's what we expect. That's what we've become accustomed to. Even in Deep Space Nine, in some of its darkest moments, it had an underlying tone of some sort of hope.
There was a line that the characters wouldn't cross, and no matter, even in the midst of a ground battle, when Jake got stuck out in the battlefield when he was helping Bashir, you're seeing the bodies of Klingons and Starfleet officers, but the show there was a message behind it of bravery and learning to be an adult and deal with things that are beyond you. This seems just like gory just for the sake of getting gory.
Yeah, this is something that we would have seen that would have been in Fangoria magazine, back in the day, like this opening sequence. It was absolutely, the opening sequence of episode 5 was entirely just way over the top. It was something you would have seen in Saw. It would have been.
This is not how I wanted to find out Jonathan Frakes can do horror.
Yeah, exactly. And, and I think SD Frakes is stuck with what he's stuck with. He can only do so much as a director.
Yeah, well, he could also walk away, but like.
I mean, it's also so we'll pull this up here. That seems to be what their vision was. In order to even do this show, that's what they had to do. So Michael Chabon,
who has since been let go.
Well, he left, I think, to do his own show or whatever.
He's doing another CBS All Access show.
Yeah, he's doing another CBS All Access show that's his own property that he wrote previously, that he's been trying to get greenlit for forever. So he actually talked about he did an impromptu Q&A on Instagram where he talked about that that was planned. This was planned. And that was the only reason why they could do a Picard show in order to get Patrick Stewart back, is to do a show like this. So he said, hello and welcome. I hear what you're saying. A lot of people were probably hoping for something like that, but it's not really a missed opportunity because there was no opportunity to make a Picard show like that because it would not have had a Picard. Sir Patrick was clear from the start that he would only come back to do something that felt challenging to him and totally different from The Next Generation. Actually, Jean-Luc hanging out in a strange neighborhood kind of perfectly sums up the approach he wanted us to take, and that's okay because we already have Next Generation, 7 seasons of it, plus the films. I never get tired of watching them. And in a separate response, he said, some of the Picard, as you have correctly observed, is not, it never will be, it never will never, yeah, sorry, that might be a typo. It was never intended to be. Sir Patrick was very clear and explicit with us from the outset that his returning to the role of Jean-Luc Picard, like his previous return to the role of Professor X and Logan, depended on our creating a series written and intended for an older, more mature audience about an older, more battered hero, one that would accurately reflect and take into account the burden of years, disappointments, and regrets. So that is what we set about doing.
And he's sugarcoating there because let's face it, Patrick Stewart has come out and said, bragged about the fact that this was basically the Star Trek answer to, being able to scold people for Brexit and Orange Man Bad. And that's exactly the reason that, he signed on. because he's like all about those kind of politics. He's just like,
And yet they don't even address those politics to their full extent in the show, like a Star Trek show traditionally would.
no, just wait till that happens, SD. You know what's oh god, that's going to go over the top with that, I'm sure. But the thing is Patrick Stewart, and I hate to ruin people's image of him because look, as Star Trek fans, we held the character of Jean-Luc Picard so dear. But the problem is Patrick Stewart is a raging SJW, man. And there's no other way to put it, guys. That's just how he is. That's how his politics are. That's how apparently they've been for a long time. And unfortunately, that's what the man believes. And he's going to continue to get involved in these projects which espouse that. And it's sad. It really is. Because, we enjoyed the assertive, Picard that had an air of nobility and commanded respect. And you don't get that in this. You get the Picard that's, let's see, for 25, 30 minutes of the episode, he's scolded by every woman on the ship. He's like the feeble old man that said, "Oh, I'm sorry." So I don't know. What do you think, Phil?
The thing is, they said this wouldn't have happened without Patrick Stewart coming. Patrick Stewart wouldn't have come back without the show going in this direction. My thing is, I think I talked about with Jorge earlier today on Twitter. We've had far more Star Trek without Patrick Stewart than with him. We didn't know that Star Trek didn't need Picard to continue on. I'm glad he's back in the way that he's involved in Star Trek, but this is not Star Trek. They changed it so much that it's deviated so much from the source material and what the air and what the spirit of Star Trek is. It's no longer Star Trek.
It's not recognizable in any form. Yeah.
When I watch Star Trek, my wife asked me, "Why do you keep watching the same things over and over?" I was like, "Actually, I'm watching 500 episodes over and over. It's not the same thing, honey." But I watch it because I know what I'm going in. I know what I'm getting. For the fact, it's not going to be depressing. Even if things do get dark, the next episode things are going to go in a certain direction. They're not going to stay where they're going to be, at a certain point. It's one of the reasons why in Voyager, it wasn't as episodic. It was more episodic than let's say a long running arc like in DS9, and that was done on purpose. The season, I think it was season 5 or season 6, where they had season 5, I believe, or number 4, where they had the Year of Hell. The original plan for that episode was actually an entire season, and it would have been interesting to watch, but they canned it because it was too dark and too involved. Now they're basically we come fast forward to today, and they're just going full into this dystopian dark edginess that's more like Sci-Fi Channel.
This was Saw level stuff, Bill. I mean, that was like that.
Drill the guy's eye out.
It was unnecessary.
The only thing they didn't show is the needle going into the eyeball.
Nobody needed the torture porn scene at the beginning. I'm sorry, it was just way over the top. That does not belong in Star Trek. And I agree. I agree with what you said, Phil. I mean, sure, they played around with the concept of longer stories, shorter stories, and things like that. So I understand having Picard the way it is in that sense, but the tone and the way that the show is and their portrayal of the Federation, just so many different things. It's just it's unneeded, because what's the point? If you were going to do a show like that and you knew it was going to upset fans, then why did you even go in that direction in the first place? You don't need Stewart. He's not God's gift. He's a great actor, sure, but he's not God's gift.
I think they needed Stewart because Star Trek is dying.
Yeah.
If they would have done if they do it, I'm pretty sure they had. Well, no, Star Trek wasn't dying. That Kelvin universe crap was getting old with people. That's what
Right.
my
Yeah.
thing is.
Yeah.
They,
That's what I meant.
they
yeah.
lost their fandom because that wasn't made for the fandom. That was like a I don't know what kind of projects those were. They weren't very. They were.
It was a watered down Trek.
Yeah, it was. It was. They were entertaining on the surface, but to call it Star Trek, it was something. It was something else. It wasn't.
Yeah, they could have done a new show, John, even like in a setting like 2409, 2410, and done a new crew with a new ship and showed the changes in the Federation, and you could have had some guest appearances by folks in the past to connect the past and the present.
Yeah, exactly. This you got to realize something. It's sad, but we haven't had a true continuation of Star Trek since 1990. 2002? Or when did Voyager end? And
Voyager ended 2001, I think, and then Enterprise for 2005.
That's Enterprise. That's set in the past, so that's not even a real. They didn't continue anything.
The holodeck simulation.
Yeah, just don't talk about that. It didn't end. That was not the last episode. I refuse to believe that. It was gone. It ended. The
It was Terra Nova. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't happen. But you can have easily explained away not addressing a lot of the main cast because it's been 20 years. Even in real time, it's been 20 years. Those characters could have moved on and done other things, and you could have just referenced them. And again, guest appearances here and there, but we didn't need Picard to come back, and especially like this.
Mm-hmm.
No, and especially with the most boring story you could tell with Picard. I mean, all the flashbacks seem way more interesting of a story and show that I'd much rather see than him going to a cube to rescue some android girl and then not know what to do with her afterwards because he has no plan. He's like, we got to save her. Okay, then what? Season 2? Like, there's no, like, what are they going to do?
I mean, I have not seen anything productive from these 5 episodes that I've watched so far, and I've I've gone to alternative means to watch them. Yes, but
is there any kind of space exploration?
No, but there is a lizard-like alien that looks an awful lot like Harvey Weinstein.
There's no space exploration in Star Trek. Isn't that like one of? I feel like that's like a core.
That's its anchor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, John. This exactly. You're getting at the heart of the problem here.
I mean, I'm not a diehard Star Trek fan, but when I think of Star Trek, I think of what is that Spock says or whatever, the saying at the end of that they say.
It's the first word, space, the final frontier.
Right. Yeah.
It's like taking the wars out of Star Wars.
Well,
yeah.
that too.
That's the High Republic.
We'll get to that, Don.
Yeah. And which I'm fully convinced they came up with that concept because they were high, but we'll get to that.
So did you guys talk about Shaban's or talk about the violence here?
Well, we mentioned that there is violence. I don't know if we addressed his response yet.
Okay, so he said, I'm unambivalent about the violence. Myself, the choice was not made lightly, though it was made collaboratively and therefore with a good deal of conversation and debate among the creators. And so I assure you that it is not there simply because we can, nor because we are trying, as you somewhat uncharitably put it, to be in. My partners would all have their own reasons for its presence in this story. As some of us had our own reasons for shying away from it. For me, it came down to this. There has always been violence and even torture in Star Trek. Sometimes that violence has been implicit, sometimes explicit, according to the dictates of censorship. The nature of the situation, so he's blaming censorship for why it's so gratuitous now. The nature of the situation being depicted, the aesthetic of individual creators, or technical and or budgetary limitations. And the reason that there has always been violence in Trek is that Trek is art, and there has always been violence, implicit and explicit in art. It belongs there. It belongs in any narrative about human beings, even human beings of the future. Violence often is the narrative, its source, its engine. The question of whether it's too much or not is ultimately a matter of taste.
This is the whole point.
Yeah, exactly.
Comparing the violence of this Star Trek to other Star Treks is like comparing me punching in the face and Mike Tyson. They're both punching in the face, but he will break your face. I will probably bloody your nose. It's a big difference.
Yeah, this is like way over the top gratuitous, and there's no reason. And that to me, that's a cop out explanation. This is just again a thing to drive home this weird aesthetic that they want of it being dark and hopeless, and they're just taking everything over the friggin' top. And it's like, my God, Star Trek had hope and wonder, and that's what pulled viewers in. People liked the sense of first contacts with alien races, exploration, things like that. I mean, sure, people weren't tuning in to see them chart binary stars for an hour, no, but they liked the fact of the thing in general, that they were out in the greater galaxy exploring.
Kirk fighting the Gorn, right?
Yeah, things like that. There was a lot of like neat moments, and you don't have that in this show.
I think I did so I know you guys don't like the Kelvin stuff, but I thought the opening scene, I think it was the Into Darkness was the second one, right? Mm-hmm. Where they're on the planet and they have to they're stopping the volcano from exploding. I thought that is what I thought of as like Star Trek a lot, and I really enjoyed that scene.
Here's the thing, Kelvin, I don't think anyone dislikes the Kelvin. As a standalone movies, they were fine. I mean, they were entertaining, they were good to watch. But I own the first two movies. I don't have a problem with the movies, but when you try, they're not a template to make proper Star Trek.
Yeah.
That's my only thing is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was like, you could have taken that scene from the opening scene, that would have, I thought, to me, that could have stood alone as like as an episodic Star Trek series set in like the main timeline or whatever. That's something that they do. They go and explore and deal with problems when they're exploring these planets. And I thought that was in it. To me, I found that scene entertaining.
Well, sure. The movies fit the thing better than what they're doing with television. But John, since they've gone with Discovery and Picard, I mean, these have been god-awful representations of Star Trek. The Kelvin movies, most fans, when you sit down and talk to them about the Kelvin movies, most people actually don't mind the Kelvin movies all that much. What we do mind is what we got in the aftermath, which is like very, 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 not Star Trek. We got some, really crappy science fiction with a Star Trek label slapped on it. And it's terrible.
Yeah, Jorge calls it a combination of The Expanse and Altered Carbon, that they're kind of trying to rip those two off.
Yeah, they only rip off the skin and not any of the soul.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, I don't even think there are too many fans that are divided over Picard. The division happened with Discovery. Picard, I haven't seen really anyone actually really like it as much of a show. Like, even Anti-Trekker over on his channel, I've spoken with him a few times. He says it's better than Discovery, which I agree with, but he still doesn't like it. Like, he was almost ready to give up on the show after this last episode that aired. And it's just such a tragedy to see that not a single writer on that show understands what science fiction actually is, and also wants to embrace the challenge of not having a whole bunch of characters in petty conflict with each other, as opposed to what we originally saw, which was intelligent characters, the best of the best in Starfleet, aboard a ship, addressing difficult problems in different approaches and having a debate that way, as opposed to, you left me alone for 15 years and didn't even check up on me, so now I'm a drug addict where the government took my baby.
Right?
And or 7 of 9 saying there's no law out here, so now I'm a vigilante. And you have an Exo who is introduced as a badass, but when he has to go on a covert mission, he cowers at the sign of a phaser. Like none of it all adds up. None of it's in sync. It's just very
No, and there's no crew. It's just a hodgepodge, and we've got.
That's what's hot. That's what's hot now because crews they denote ethics and rules, and people don't like rules. They want to express themselves and do everything they feel like doing because their feelings are so important. But that's actually never been the case in Star Trek. It's always been about the prime directive and your training, and the dichotomy has always been, when does it stop? It's when when you're training and your heart come into conflict. There's no heart in this. There's no heart.
No. That's how they spin Star Trek on its head. Let's take out the heart. Let's take out the crew. Let's take out the responsibility.
Phil, you know what I want? Even I was looking at the photo of the ship. There is no heart in that ship. It's just
it's garbage.
It's empty.
No, I saw it flip. And then there's this chick from Starfleet cursing out Picard, and I'm like, wow, that's not the Starfleet I remember from like.
No, they make Starfleet. They take Starfleet, and it's meant to, the way that their portrayal is. It's meant to be a jab at like Britain or whatever for like Brexit. Supposedly Starfleet has become all xenophobic and isolationist. It's terrible, man. And the thing, I look at it this way: that show has no personality. There's been no characters that are remotely likable. I mean, even Picard isn't even Picard. Nobody likes him. And the thing is just, God, this show has the personality, literally, of a turd in a punch bowl. It's so boring.
I don't know. A turd of a punch bowl is kind of interesting because you have to ask, how did that turd get there?
Doesn't really sound
Was it
boring.
planted, or did someone have to squat over the punch bowl?
Especially if it's at a drunk party, people don't notice that it's a turd.
Yeah.
But honestly, I know that this show has been given a season 2, but man,
no, it hasn't. It's rumored still.
Yeah, I haven't. There has not. Yeah,
and there's just been reports that I haven't yet confirmed yet, but I am going to find out on Monday that they've been taking down and dismantling the Star Trek Discovery sets over at Pinewood, Toronto, which is about 30 minutes from where my office is. So I'm gonna try and go down there Monday and see if I can get some confirmation.
Oh yeah,
that's a scoop. Yeah,
snap some shots.
But the thing is, in ST, you could speak to this. I hope that Sherry Redstone takes over and just says, enough's enough.
It all depends on what sort of numbers come up and the for the show's ratings. Like, I think Picard will end by the time the WGA have to commit to a strike or not. So we'll see what happens as a result, because if the strike goes through, then aside from Discovery, which is already in the can, the other two shows that Kurtzman has, I think they're still in the midst of writing, and those would have to stop immediately. And that could end up leading to them being canceled.
Hey, Phil.
Yep.
That sounds good.
Where's Cisco at? Technically, he's still in the Celestial Temple, right?
Never came back. Yeah.
Yeah. I want Cisco to show up and punch Picard's lights out.
He almost did that in the first episode of DS9.
Yeah.
He's gonna kill this guy.
Actually, Star Trek Cisco would have probably been a bigger hyped show than Picard, because there is more of a mystery to that character.
Oh yeah.
But Avery Brooks, I don't think, would be the type of guy that would do this type of show. Given the last few interviews I've heard of him, where he's been asked SJW type questions, and he kind of logically talks about how that's not a question, and those types of thoughts are not beneficial to actors or story.
Oh.
So
Avery Brooks is a smart dude, man.
He's teaching drama at Rutgers, I think.
Yeah, he's a professor.
Yeah, I think he's at Rutgers.
Yeah.
And a really good pianist too. So
okay.
piano player. I'm not calling him a dick.
So Drew,
Animaniacs, anyone?
So what now?
Drew was talking about Star Trek, like kind of reflecting Patrick Stewart's Brexit opinions. So Shaban actually kind of addressed this. This is really long. Jorge's going to have an article up on this hopefully tomorrow. I know we're working on it together. We were actually going to have it all in the one article, and then we decided to do it as two because it makes more sense that way. So he says, first of all, I think that the phrase or a version of it, Star Trek has always reflected its time, is open to multiple potentially conflicting interpretations. It can mean individual Star Trek series have always consciously reflected thematically many of the most pressing issues of the time when they were made. I think that's the sense intended by people involved with making the two current series, Picard and Discovery, and it's pretty obviously true, starting with persistent themes of nuclear annihilation, racial prejudice, mechanization, totalitarianism versus liberal democracy. On the original series through Deep Space Nine, with its themes of individual versus group identity, chosen family, reason versus faith, and the inevitable moral compromises of war, that's only the conscious ways in which Trek has reflected the times in which it was made. But the phrase could also be taken the way I think you take it, that the word, the milieu depicted by Star Trek, the characters and their interactions, their capabilities and limitations as individuals, the social institutions and mores and technologies and economics and culture reflects the world and era in which it was made. I think you're saying that this is wrong, that here is exactly where Trek doesn't, hasn't, and shouldn't reflect the world and times, that it has always represented its crews, Starfleet, and the Federation's improvements as realizations of our best potential as aspirational. If Trek has reflected our world, it's in a kind of utopian funhouse mirror where everything looks better. I would say that by and large, that has been true, though possibly not as to the degree that many Trek fans claim or feel.
Oh, get out of here.
Here's the thing about
Get out of here.
same thing about comic books, especially the X-Men, how they've always done this and they've always been political. It's like, yeah, but there's a thing called skill when it comes to your writing, that is, you're not bashing people over the head with it. It's not so blatant and obvious that it's distracting. And it's
not ham-fisted, and it's not elevating one over the other. Yeah,
exactly. And it's not the same thing. You're not doing it the same way. And I don't think they understand the concept of escapism. It's like, I see this all the time. I don't really need to see more of this all the time. Can we just go explore some planets or something?
It also, I think, is that they're addressing current political issues. Whereas, I can go back and watch Deep Space Nine, and I have no idea what the
exactly
of that era were when that show was made, because they're not talking about current political stuff. They're talking about what's the word that I'm looking for?
Well, they take universal aspects of something that's happened in our in our past through politics, and take out the core of it. So, for instance, you had a private little war in the original series, which was allegorical to Vietnam, but also allegorical to foreign governments infiltrating and tipping the scales of one side to another from another country, basically a prime directive story. Deep Space Nine was addressing with rebuilding a society after an occupation, which is similar to Central Europe after a Second World War. They just took the aspects of what happens after this type of event, and how can we explore it in this world that Gene Roddenberry, Gene Alcoon, and DC Fontana helped create, along with, I guess, Lucille Ball, even though she was just more making this show. But that's kind of the setting that you play around with. What we have here is we have a federation that's disenfranchised with its own ideals, and we don't know why. We have discrimination towards Romulans, and they don't know why. And we have Picard, who has given up and turned his back on everything he holds, and we don't know why. It's missing the stuff that intrigues us as audiences to get us on board.
Romulan Starfleet officers?
Not on purpose.
There's a half Romulan Starfleet officer.
The drumhead. I knew you were going to bring it up. The drumhead. Yeah, he tried to hide it. He said his maternal grandfather was a Vulcan, but in actuality, it was a Romulan. And yeah, that was a great episode.
It was a brilliant episode. That was a perfect one about basically a witch hunt, essentially. And we go through those every couple of years. Even the court of public opinion is what that is. So, I mean, there's a brilliant example right then and there of how to do a story with a political mindset, but number one, not keep it partisan. It's very nonpartisan, which is always beneficial. And on top of that, it's also exposing the fact that in a witch hunt, it's not those that are being hunted that are really have more to worry about. It's those that are doing the hunting, because they're the ones who are really exposing the fact that they're the evil ones in this situation. So we don't get any of that type of high thinking elements in Picard, or even in the Kelvin universe, or especially in Star Trek Discovery. And that's probably why these shows are so terrible. Like no one's thinking on that level.
Even going back to like DS9, I'm not sure if you the episode with Dax, and I'm not sure if you guys remember the rules. They're not supposed to associate themselves with the past loves of their former hosts.
Yeah.
Yet she had to deal with her Dax's former wife in another life, or another, when he was a man.
Curzon's ex-wife, I think.
No, it was before that. Even before that.
Curzon. Okay.
Yeah.
He died.
He up on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, Dax's host died in an accident, and she was widowed. And then they the new hosts see each other, and it's kind of taboo. They're not supposed to go past being familiar with each other, but they engage in another relationship. And there's two women, and they don't engorge. They don't get too far into that point of it. The entire episode is about these two characters, and it's not getting political. You're talking about their emotions and their feelings toward each other, and you understand and you feel it. But now it's all like, it's, again, there's no skill, there's no nuance in it. Everything is just kind of like something you'd follow on Twitter. It's really sad, You don't. And then the drumhead. The funny thing is, the best performance of that episode came from Picard. Came from Patrick Stewart. He was.
Yeah, Joan Collins really was good too. But yes, absolutely.
She was. Yeah, she went over the edge there. That was great. So, but I mean, it's just sad to see where it's gone. And to be honest, a lot of the times, these actors, sometimes they're just really good actors, and they don't make the best producers or directors. And from what I understand, Patrick Stewart had a lot to say in how this this show was going to be put together and how it's going to be told. Sometimes the talent, they need to just kind of stay in their lane, because they don't always be the best directors.
Yeah, actors are empty shells of people, and they do that for their ability to do a role. There's an interview, I think, with Truman Capaldi on the Dick Cavett show, where he talks about this for a few moments. How like actors should not have in general, like really great actors are absolute morons and very infantile, because they're able to get in touch with all those feelings they need in order to perform. And I think Dick Cavett mentioned like, well, you think this other guy's an idiot, and then Truman Capote said, no, I think he's brilliant, but that's because he's also a terrible actor. And like that, I just wish I could remember the actor's name he was referring to, but it's probably on YouTube. I strongly suggest checking it out. It gives you total understanding and insight with regards to what actors are in Hollywood and how they haven't really changed in like 70 years. They're not the smartest people.
I think Anthony Hopkins said the same thing.
Yeah, he did. We got that.
Anthony Hopkins is probably the smartest one, because he's self-aware of that.
And that was in an interview that he was doing with Brad Pitt. They're interviewing each other because that's the thing to do now.
Yeah, they're doing those actors on actor interviews.
Yeah, everyone's doing it now.
Well, that's mostly because a lot of the journalists or reporters for interviewing actors have been trying to look for a scandal, as opposed to talking about the project or the process.
Right. So Shaban continues. Like I said, these are really long-winded responses. But there's another side to the world, the people and society depicted in Star Trek. And I think we were kind of talking about this before. I know when I went to get some water, when I came back, Script Doctor seemed to be talking about a little bit about how the Federation has radically changed. So he said, but there's another side to the world, the people and society depicted in Star Trek, which is all the characters, plans, cultures, mores, and interactions that take place outside of Starfleet, the Federation. Many of these outside cultures and characters, the empires and alliances and unions, have deliberately reflected aspects of our world with its all imperfection, intolerance, brutality, its humiliations and injustices, its evils. I don't mean just in a thematic sense, but in the behavior of individual non-Federation, non-Starfleet characters, in the construction of societies around prejudices and inequalities, violence, lust for power, etc. That brings us to Picard. In the one long 10-part story we're asking two questions about the greater world of Star Trek, i.e. the Federation and everything outside the Federation. One, a venerable Star Trek question with a long pedigree in previous series and films. What happens when the Federation, the Roddenberry Federation, with all its enlightened and noble intentions, free from want, disease, internal war, greed, capitalism, intolerance, etc., is tested by forces inimical to its values? What happens when two of its essential principles, security and liberty, say come into conflict? The answer has to be, at first it buckles, it wobbles, it may to some extent compromise or even betray its values, or at the very least be sorely tempted to do so. If not, there's no point asking the question, though it's a question that any society with aspirations like ours or the Federation's needs to ask. If nothing can ever truly test the Federation, if nothing can rock its perfection, then it's just a magical land. It's Lothlorien in its enchanted bubble, untouchable by the shadow, and also profoundly inhuman. To me, it's the humanity of the Federation, which means, among many admirable things, its imperfection, its vulnerability, and the constant need to defend it from our own worst natures that makes it truly inspiring.
Yeah, where's that TV show? Because he's not writing that TV show.
Here's the thing about what he just said. That sounds like someone doesn't know what they're talking about. The Federation and humankind in general they've already, what he's talking about is basically saying that they haven't earned it, and this is what it is because it's more realistic. No, in the world of Star Trek, the Federation doesn't even come into an existence until after a third world war that costed 30% of the world's population.
Yep.
All
like
this
800 million dead and several more like irradiated and stuff. And then there's also, I guess, a dictator that tried to make like pro-humans, and like anyone who had genetic disease, he'd do a sterilization and exterminations of.
Wasn't that Khan?
No, this is after the eugenics war.
After the eugenics war, yeah.
That character, I think, was introduced in the Savage Curtain season 3 episode. Human guy in a red jumpsuit. Pretty evil. But yeah, like the Federation was only 100 years old when Kirk took command of the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like 200 years or so since Picard's time. They've kind of stood the test of time. And it's one thing to say, like, yes, let's challenge the concept of the Federation, but you have to show us that story. You can't say, okay, all right, the Federation was challenged, they blinked, they collapsed, now we're going to tell this story. It's like, no, you can't do that, not with 21 seasons of Star Trek that pretty much say, give us an established framework of how the society functions, at least from Starfleet's perspective. You can't just collapse it and tell a story of it after the collapse without telling us why it's collapsed, or at least giving us more of a broader scope of the galaxy and the state of the galaxy at this point. Right now, we're just watching a very intimate mission where an old man is going after a 20-something-year-old girl, and we don't know why. It's really skeevy when you present it that way, but that's essentially what it is.
It's almost like we don't know why Luke Skywalker is on Octo.
Yeah, they're just ignoring It's like you can tell. It's like you may have read Cliff Notes or maybe you've skimmed some episodes, but you don't understand the backstory of Star Trek. What you're doing is it's not progressive; it's regressive. They've gotten past this part in their history already. The humankind has evolved past this because they've already been there. Why the need to go back there? But because it's edgy and they think it's more interesting to be like all these other sci-fi shows.
Exactly, it's edgy and it's easier. And I mean, from my opinion, I think the times when an admiral, like one or two admirals, decides to try and correct the system of the Federation for their own personal gain is great, because not only is it challenged by everyone around that admiral, but it shows the testament of how sensitive and fragile their infrastructure is, and why it's important for them to maintain this code. I mean, that two-parter of DS9.
I know you're going to bring it up too when during the
I wish I could remember the title. But that's a great one. Even the last episode, second to last episode of the first season of Star Trek, where the Admiralty is invaded by those
the worm
those
things.
like worm thing hosts, which were originally going to be the Borg, but they decided to change it, and that's like really, really cool. even the conflict with Admiral Nechev in the TNG, she was like a bitch all the time too, Picard. But she was something of like she was trying to hold up her understanding of the Federation. Picard was trying to hold up his, and they'd have to try and find a way to compromise.
Or the Equinox and Voyager. I mean, I think every series has this challenge. Like you have the ethical part of Starfleet trying to survive in the face of something that's opposite. So
Exactly, and that's the story that really actually hooks people in. And what we have here is you're like, nope, they failed. So what do we do now? Well, we're just kind of, it's basically Wild Wild West again.
We're taking off heads and drilling out eyeballs.
And wearing eye patches in the 21st century when you can get ocular replacements. Like Geordi would have a visor, not two eye patches.
Oh wait, this image is actually from Picard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's an outtake because there's no smiling or joyousness in that episode at all.
Why is he wearing an eye patch?
He's trying to blend in. It's
a disguise. He's got a fake scar too, and a really terrible French accent.
Oh, isn't he? Oh, so you're just that when you're talking about him having a terrible French accent, you're talking about the acting, or is he supposed to have a terrible French accent?
No, I think the acting.
Okay.
Here's the thing about Patrick Stewart. His character is French, but
Right,
he sounds very, very English. So
That's because they established in TNG that French was a dead language. Nobody speaks it anymore by that time.
except his brother, who had a French accent, who we saw in the episode when he went back after he got liberated from the Borg.
Oh, in fact, yeah, Robert, he kind of did. He had a subtler one. It was still
It wasn't
more
English. I don't think so. If it was, I don't even know.
I watched it recently from one of my Star Trek reviews. Like, it's more English, but he does throw a little bit of a French in there, more so than what Picard is. But his wife is full on English, and so is his nephew. So, but that's a great episode. That one still gives me some.
Oh yeah,
tears.
that gets inside of me. He starts at the end when they're fighting, and then he starts bursting into tears. Like, whoa, where the hell did that come from?
But and I just love the fact that the older brother's like, yeah, you need a reset, and I'm the only one that can do it to you because I know you so well. God, I miss Star Trek.
I mean, it's still there. You can watch. I think they have all the old stuff on Netflix. So
it's on Netflix. I watch it all the time.
I've got it on Blu-ray and on digital.
I watch it all the time.
So he said. So he goes up to the other question because he said there were two. Remember. So the other related question we're asking is, what about the people who live outside at the edges or even within the Federation, but who for various reasons aren't quite of it? Ex-Starfleet officers, refugees, people like Seven, who served on a Starfleet ship but was never actually in Starfleet, people who have fallen through the cracks or fallen victim to their own weaknesses. What is life like for people who, for whatever reason, live beyond the benevolent boundaries of the Federation, where, for example, what is that?
That sounds like he's describing the outline of
the Maquis, any colonies that decide that decide to start without Federation help. The character of Vash, she's like a smuggler and a grifter. She doesn't really live within the Federation.
She ended up in the Delta Quadrant for a while. Not Delta Quadrant, Gamma Quadrant for a while.
Gamma Quadrant, yeah. The Ferengi are not part of the Federation, but they're loose allies.
There are dozens of civilizations in the Beta and Alpha quadrants that didn't conform to the Federation. They were just too expensive to animate all the time.
Yeah, like the Tholians especially.
Tholians, oh my god!
God, they need more of those.
So he continues, where, for example, post-scarcity is a dream and there is a monetary economy. Again, there's a precedent for this kind of story on Trek, but the fact that our story only resolves over 10 episodes, not 1 or 2 or 4 out of a season of 23, might make it feel sometimes that there is more darkness, more trauma in our characters' lives, more struggle. The show unquestionably has darker tonalities than some others. Deep Space Nine is the standout exception. It lives more in the shadows, where the Federation's light can't always reach. That isn't to condemn, criticize, undo, break, or God knows betray the Federation or Gene Roddenberry's vision. Shadow defines light. Every new Trek series since the Next Generation has sought to escape what can feel like the confines of previous series, not simply of canon, which can also be a strangely liberating force, but of the kinds of stories about the kinds of characters and societies that have already been told. Each new series has expressed this impulse to light out for the territories in a different way. The Next Generation went a century into the future of the original series. Deep Space Nine went on to a station full of aliens that was both beyond the edge of the Federation and next to a wormhole that led to the Gamma Quadrant. Voyager put 70,000 light years between it and its predecessors and introduced a raft of new species and worlds. Enterprise went deeply into the early past of the Federation. Next season's Discovery goes to the Trekking versus Far Future. Space we found for Picard is not dark. It's one of people who live and work at or beyond the margins of the Federation who travel beyond its boundaries to find the truth.
You can't with a straight face talk about those series and then start talking about Star Trek Discovery.
You really can't.
It's not the same. It's drastically different. They're not even remotely in the same lane. I mean, they're Star Trek in name only, and most of it's because of that stupid contract about was it 25% different or 30% different?
Well, the contract is only affected with regards to licensing out for merchandising.
Okay.
If they just decide to stick with it normally, Secret Hideout and Bad Robot, would not be making any money on the toys being sold for those properties because they're considered traditional canon, if you will. On top of that, Shaban's talking about the limitations of 10 episodes compared to 22, but so far in the 5 episodes that are aired, you could cram all that in like 2.5 episodes. They're really just drawing out a story that's not large enough for the 10 episode order that they have. Star Trek Discovery keeps changing stories mid-season. It started with the Klingon War, then they went to the Mirror Universe, and then went back to the Klingon War, and second season they started off with the Red Angel, and then there's this AI thing that wants to be an AI, and then they're back to the Red Angel again. It's scatterbrained. It's completely unfocused. There's no sense of discovery, exploration. There's the problems they have are solved way too easily by Michael Burnham, and sadly only Michael Burnham. I think the best episode of Star Trek Discovery is the one about Saru going back home and dealing with that alien species that dominates them, and that's only because Michael Burnham's kind of barely in it.
Here's my thing about something he said while he was something about being confined and getting freedom. It's like, see, this is not this is not a vanity piece. This is not about how you feel. This is about you selling a product to an existing audience. You're not what you're talking. What he's trying to do is not. It's not how you. It's nonsense. If you're trying to sell something, you sell what they want, not what you want them to want.
Yeah, or what you try to do is listen to what the potential audience wants, find out what the need is, and then give them that need, because if you give them something that they want, they'll most likely be bored. But if you give them something what they need that fits in line with what they've liked before, then you'll most likely have them as repeat customers. They'll come back to see where you're going to take this new story. Here, they're just saying, we want to do this, and whether or not you like it or not, we're still going to double down and go through with it. And that's not good business practice, and it's also not good storytelling.
And in the long run, they're damaging the franchise, because my interest in the franchise as a whole has lessened because of this, because I don't trust it anymore.
I think it's the same thing with Star Wars too. I mean,
exactly.
It's repeating the same mistakes.
They've Star Wars Star Trek.
Well, Star Trek started happening at first because that's what J.J. Abrams got his meats into.
Yeah, because 2009.
Sorry, paws into the meat. Yeah.
No one likes listening to the fans.
Well, here's the troubling issue with the fans is that sometimes they have crazy demands. I mean, it's just that's the case sometimes. But the thing is, you have to listen to all of it, because every once in a while you hear something that's not unreasonable. And the best example, I guess, would be the redesign of that Sonic the Hedgehog thing. There's nothing unreasonable about them requesting that. They did not. No fan ever said change the script or change the story or whatever. The only thing they did was just update the design to something more pleasant to look at and not frightening.
It was scary.
And they did really, really well. Like, it's a paint by numbers movie. It has some great emotion and some good performances, and Jim Carrey's on the ball again with his old style of comedy, and it works for what it is. I mean, it's nothing huge, but it's a really fun movie for for what it is. And if they didn't change that design, no one would go see it because they'd be too disgusted by that very creepy looking original hedgehog design.
The only thing I liked about the original designs, well, it's not the design, but I liked the Gangsta's Paradise song track they put in the trailer. It made no sense, but it was cool seeing it like him that moving around to it. I was like, oh, this is pretty weird, but I like it. And then I saw his face, and I was like, oh no, oh no. So,
all right. Do we want to talk about anything else we want to say about Star Trek?
It's dead.
I
Pray
have
that Redstone listens to me when I pitch our Star Trek show next year.
Yeah.
I have hopes that the re-merging of Viacom and Paramount has some effect on the next season in a good way.
The only the only thing I could say is it's dead, Jim.
It's dead.
Could be. Like the writer's strike could kill it, or the lawsuit that Anas Abdin is appealing could do something, because he's got a former circuit judge on his side helping him out with the appeal process. So if that ends up going in the opposite direction, that's grounds for Viacom CBS to sever ties with Secret Hideout because of liability issues.
Hey,
That judge is an expert intellectual property judge.
Yeah.
What if
that is
if they
his.
get some scab writers?
hey, those writers being gone, that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. The last time they went gone, we got Revenge of the Fallen, the Transformers movie, and that was great, right, guys? that was a great one. The Devastator. That was awesome.
That's the first writer's strike is how Alex Kurtzman got in, because he just scabbed out. Like he just started to work.
Scab. Oh my
He was like, I'm in a different position. I didn't meet my minimum points requirements to stay in the union, so I can work freely without any animosity from other people, and they know that. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers this happens so that I can at least get in the front of the line again.
Oh, you and me.
Yep.
Turn in some scripts.
Turn in some scripts. Prey on that desperation, because they are going to be desperate. Sorry, Don.
I know how to use commas.
And you never know, man. You never know.
Hey.
No,
Just don't half-ass your work when you submit it to them, because they would rather have nothing than a half-ass story.
well, that's what I'm missing, SD. I need to take this thing with the Starship and turn it into a script. Good God.
You got to get to writing, sir. Got to get to writing.
All right, so let's. This was announced yesterday.
Oh, here we go.
I guess it was announced on. So first off, they announced it at like the dead of night on the 24th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It was like midnight. I don't understand why these companies decide to drop stuff at like. I'm sorry about. I know, Don, you're Pacific time, but I don't understand why they drop stuff at like midnight Pacific time, because no one on the East Coast is awake to look at that stuff. And I guess they're hoping that it'll just kind of turn through the morning. But by the morning, you're having stuff. Other people are dropping stuff at like 9 a.m. Eastern time, which makes totally much more sense. But they dropped this in the middle of the night, which to me means like they're not really like really gung ho about it. But this is their new High Republic initiative, which is a publishing initiative that will be across novels, comics, and I guess different types of novels, young adult novels, fiction, regular novels, kids novels. They're continuing the IDW Star Wars Adventures line, but it's Star Wars High Republic Adventures.
It's their own separate property that's not supposed to be Old Republic related, even though it's 200 years before Anakin Skywalker.
Old Republic was 3,000.
Yeah. So this is 200 years before Anakin, before the events of the Phantom Menace, and it will be when the Republic is young. So they're describing it as kind of like the Wild West, and they describe the Jedi as Texas Rangers, which is something we've talked about here, which isn't a terrible idea, where they're kind of like these lone guardians that wander the galaxy.
Yeah, it's before the Jedi were institutionalized, I guess is what the idea they're playing with. But
Right.
I don't know how they justify the Republic being young. It's still been around for like 2,000 years.
I'm guessing they're saying that there's like multiple republics. So you had the old republic, and then obviously you have the Sith Wars and all that stuff during that time frame. And there's like the Sith Empire that rises up. So who knows what when this like republic came about that we saw. I'm not
'Cause
like super
yeah.
familiar on the canon with that when the republic came about that we see in the prequels.
Well, like Palpatine says that it's like 1,000 generations, and Obi-Wan says for over 1,000 years the Jedi were around, and then the prequel trilogy takes place in the Old Republic. So I mean, yeah, are they going to try and say no? It's the High Republic at that point, or
No. So the Old Republic is different than the Republic from the prequels. The Old Republic is a video game that BioWare created that's set like 3,000 years before the events of the original Star Wars film.
And Disney will never acknowledge it.
no, that's true. But the whole, like Obi-Wan calls it in the first movie the Old Republic because that's what it was. But like Old Republic is like Satele Shan and all that other stuff. Like that's the dawn. Yeah. That's almost the dawn of the Old Republic.
Right.
I would say they'll never acknowledge that, Don, because
they already are. They already are acknowledging a lot of that.
They're going to have to if they want to make some money, because that's the last identifiable thing that people have is Revan and those characters. So they're going to have to do that.
Why not just do KOTOR? Why do this High Republic thing?
They do. They have a script for it by Satya Galacordis. I keep forgetting how to pronounce her name. It's a difficult name, but it's turned in and it's just kind of sitting there, so we don't know what's happening yet.
You wrote the Alita movie, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had this like little fancy video that they put together, and then they have they did an article on StarWars.com, and then all the writers are talking about it. But what's interesting is that this is what this is a screenshot of like where they're kind of going, what they want. I mean, this is where they are seeing it, and I do think this is actually a good thing, an actual ending. So, which doesn't make any sense because the story would keep going on, but they do want an ending, which I think is good. Usually, without having an ending, they just kind of meander and things kind of fade away.
That's kind of funny.
It's like, let's set ourselves a goal. Okay, actual ending. Done.
Not pro-war. I don't know what that means. I don't think the only person who was really pro-war was Palpatine, and I guess
call it Star.
Dooku.
Well, Rebels are technically pro-war, even though it's the last resort. I mean, they could have just said Jedi are pacifists. It's a lot clearer.
Yeah, and then rival houses, Sith Empire, Chaos Agents.
Well, some of that stuff's from like Alderaan politics.
Yeah, Arthurian legends. So they describe these Jedis as the Knights of the Round Table, and they go out and they're exploring the Outer Rim, which basically means they're going to be on Tatooine. In all the familiar locations.
Tatooine and Kessel and
Hoth is in the Outer Rim, I think, too, right?
Yep.
So you have basically all the planets that we saw in the original trilogy. So here's some of the art. I don't know who that is. They didn't really give any details about any of the books.
Is that a C2 droid they got in the picture there?
I don't know what kind of droid that is.
It's very Disney-fied, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is supposed to be a kids book novel.
With laser swords? It's pretty violent, isn't it?
I mean, I read Animorphs, so this kind of looks like Animorphs to me. The cover looks Animorphs, Goosebumps style. So yeah, here, this guy is named, what is his name? Let me get his first name here. Vice President of Franchise Content and Strategy, James Waugh. Wow, I don't know. Sounds like anyone a Warhammer fan. Wah! Hey PJ, how's it going? Shout out to Orville Nation in the chat. How are you doing? Yeah, so he talks about down here. It's a bit of a Wild West, new frontier. We see a different kind of Jedi that patrols the frontier as more of a Texas Ranger. There will be a core group of heroes that will expand over time. And then I think up here they say that it takes place in the Golden Age where there is much more peace and calm in the galaxy. So we're calling it the High Republic. The description that we've used for the Jedi of this era is that they are the Jedi Knights of the Round Table. So you basically have if you know anything about the Round Table, they were kind of like Texas Rangers as well. So that doesn't like really conflict. If you remember, there's the Tale of Gawain where he like goes off like on the quest to find the Holy Grail. I believe. I think it's the Holy Grail. I might be wrong, but he goes off on a quest outside of like England and he goes into Europe, I believe. So you have stuff like that with the Arthurian legends. So that those do kind of line up. Very similar tales. Also both very dangerous jobs. But what's interesting here is that in Star Wars, they didn't include this in the video. Interestingly enough, this was on their website. So he added this was a golden age for the Jedi and also a time of galactic expansion in the Outer Rim. So expect there to be rich tales of exploration, charting out the galaxy, meeting new cultures, and discovering what pioneer life in the Outer Rim was like. This is an incredible sandbox for our storytellers to play in, both within publishing and beyond, and we can't wait to see the great fiction they build within it. And one also has to assume that there will be colonization, given the fact that the Republic eventually takes over these planets.
So what Star Trek is supposed to be.
Well, Star Wars, the Republic integrated the planets into the Republic with, regional governors and senators and things of that nature. There's the conquering stuff happened, I guess, a few centuries prior to this.
I'm not really sure. You had we don't really have a lot of details on that, I guess. Obviously, we had the Separatists in the Clone Wars, where they separated from the Republic, and they didn't want to be part of the Republic. And then they're obviously very similar to American Civil War, where the people from the North decided to ensure that they would not be leaving the Republic. And then you also have in the Old Republic, you have the Mandalorian War. Is that what it's called, Drew? The Mandalorian War?
Yes.
Where the Mandalorians were not part of the Republic, and they were their own kind of Mandalorian empire, and they were expanding. And then Revan and a couple of other Jedi decided to get involved in the war and join the Republic as generals. Against, I believe, the teachings of the Jedi, and then obviously they became corrupted. Went out and found the what is it called, the
Starforge.
The Starforge, yeah, that's it. Find the Starforge. They turn to the dark side, and then they launch an attack against.
They spent a while building that fleet.
Right, yeah. After they had won the Mandalorian War. They then go build the fleet and they come back and then they launch their own kind of like expansionist campaign. So I don't know if where were you getting the idea that they assimilated these planets?
Integrated.
Yeah, integrated and assimilated. Where did they get that from?
That's usually from one of the older novels where Republic senators would go out to newly discovered planets and then offer them or petition for them to join the Republic for resource trade and all this other stuff. Didn't always go well, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
But eventually, that's just how it was. It was not really militaristic as much. Usually, would be an imperial empire of whatever period would conquer a planet, then the Republic side would liberate it, and then from there, they would integrate into the New Republic or the Republic of that time.
Okay,
yeah.
I will say when they're talking about Texas Rangers, to me that if you know the history of the Texas Rangers, Texas was Mexican territory, obviously had Native Americans there before that. But then the Mexicans actually invited a lot of American settlers to come and settle there. And then you obviously had hostilities increase, and you had Sam Houston and forming the Texas Rangers and fighting the war against Mexico's Santa Anna. And then they eventually were able to defeat Santa Anna with the help of the U.S. government. And then Texas would obviously join the United States. And then you'd have the Rangers kind of like patrolling around Texas. And you still had hostilities with Mexico during that time. And then you also had hostilities with the Native Americans because they weren't happy that these settlers were coming in and moving into their land. So that's how kind of like when they're describing it as Texas Rangers, that's kind of what I'm seeing. They're talking about like patrolling the frontiers. Like these people are obviously from the central area. They're going to be moving in to these people who are in the outer rim, and some people I don't think are going to like it. Like you mentioned already, there's going to be hostilities, but I don't know. Maybe I'm like looking at it
That'd be a smart way for them to address that type of period if they were going to go with a Texas Ranger parallel. I mean, I would love to see that. I don't know if that's the case.
So there. I mean, they also said it's not just about the Jedi. There's going to be new smugglers, new scoundrels, new bounty hunters. But what's interesting is that when this guy literally said that it was like time of peace, but we're going to get something called the Great Disaster.
Oh gosh.
So it wouldn't be Star Wars without adventure. And there's definitely a series of events that will spin the galaxy in a dangerous new direction, and it will give an opportunity for heroes to rise up. The threat and the tension really comes from the Republic's borders, because the Republic does not extend from one side of the galaxy to the other. Didn't we just read about this in Shaban talking about this?
Yep. It's like a talking point.
Just thing. And then their new main villain group is called the Nile, and they're Space Vikings. Their motto is
Weapon X.
Can't take it with you, but we can take it from you. So that means it sounds like they're just going to be raiding like settlers, right?
Yeah, they're pirates essentially.
Yeah, they're pirates. So that's like.
Have you seen the pictures for them? Yeah, there it is. Weapon X.
Yeah. Yeah.
Twi'lek and his Zabrak, huh?
Is that a Zabrak on the left? I guess, right?
That's funny.
Could be what are they called? It's like they're Zabraks, but they're from Dathomir, right? Aren't they separate? Aren't they?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I thought because there's that one Zabrak tribe that like lives on Dathomir, which is where Maul and Oppress are from, and I thought they were kind of like just they were different because they have the ties to the what are they? The women tribe.
Dathomir witches.
The witches, yeah. What are they? Aren't Mother Talzin and all them, right? So yeah, it's going to be across multiple publishers, interconnected stories across multiple years, but they wanted to. What was it up here? They wanted
an ending.
Ending. Yeah. Okay.
Actual ending.
Yeah. It'll end when sales are like ridiculously horrible. But yeah, so it's going to be, these are the publishing units: Disney, Lucasfilm Press, Del Rey, Marvel, IDW, Titan Magazines, Abrams, Barnes, or is Books. What is B&M? I don't know what that is. B&M Books, Viz.
I misread that and thought it was Boom.
DK, Insight Editions. Viz is already kind of doing some stuff. They have that Luke Skywalker anime. We got our manga up on. We got a review up on the site. Spencer liked 3 of the 4 stories. The 4th story that he did not like was because they decided to retcon how Luke defeats the Rancor in Return of the Jedi.
How'd they retcon that?
Apparently, he doesn't really defeat the Rancor. It's some other guy using some kind of like microorganism that like helps him or something like that. Spencer explains it better.
So Ant-Man helps him defeat the
Rancor? That's what it sounds like. Yeah. Have a good night, Mark. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Take care, Mark.
Hey, Mark.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This just like here you go. This is literally just Star Wars Adventures. They already have this. They're just relabeling it Star Wars: The High Republic, and then there's this regular Star Wars comic. They just slapped High Republic on it. I don't know. This doesn't really win me back. I'm not like they didn't really provide any details on like what exactly this is their first one, and there wasn't any details on what this is. They just provided an overall view of the project. I don't know. I
also feel like this is their way to delegitimize the old EU too. They're trying to.
It looks like they're.
The expanded universe.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're just ripping stuff off of it, and putting the Disney label on it.
They don't want people to like.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, they don't want people to like the old EU stuff better than current.
Look, this is. I mean, they have dinosaurs on here. I don't want to see dinosaurs. I want to see like unique Star Wars monsters and creatures.
Dinosaurs.
I don't need to see a dinosaur in Star Wars. But I know this is what a lot of people are pointing out. They have diversity on here twice. Diversity and then representation / diversity. And when you're putting that as your focus, you're setting yourself up to fail.
Asian dinosaurs.
Especially when you're dealing with Star Wars and
Asian.
The franchise is already like just super like diverse with all the different alien species, different peoples and how people like look at things. I mean, Lucas did a really good job of just showing how unique and different and strange all the planets and the people who inhabit those planets are. Just look at like Naboo, and you have like the Gungans, and then the people of Naboo, and then you have the people on Tatooine, and then all the different people that are on Tatooine. What's the guy's name? The pod racer,
Sebulba,
and then the junk dealer, Watto, yeah, and then in the Clone Wars they explore more of like Watto's race and stuff, and how he's like the exception to his people, and they're really like a really proud, noble people. I think that's actually one of the first. That's the first episode of the Clone Wars. Yoda goes to their planet to try and recruit them to join the Republic, and he's challenged by like Ventress and Dooku to be able to like get to a meeting location in time. So yeah, I don't know. That's just stuff is just like, come on, like why, like it's already there in Star Wars. You don't need to like focus in on it. Just come up with some like really cool characters and tell a really good story.
Yep. Keep it simple. And that board, that's a giant notepad there.
Yeah.
That's a tearaway sheet. That is not a simple list of stuff to follow. That's pretty complicated.
This was the smaller one. There's another one. If you watch the actual video, there's
like another one in a group shot that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Which also means it's probably going to be really hard to keep track of like the canon and how they all like connect and stay true to each other. So I think they're going to have issues with that as well. Especially since they have no understanding of Star Wars at Disney, given The Last Jedi. And then I was ranting to Drew earlier. I picked up Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and it doubles down on the absolute idiocy of Jedi being able to cut themselves off from the Force. And one of the characters in there, she's like your ship captain or whatever. She's no longer considers herself a Jedi, and then she also says she's cut herself off from the Force. Whether you actually get some like detail on like how she does that, and she says she like pushes it away, which contradicts everything we know about the Force from Yoda. And I just
you can like suppress yourself from listening to the Force, but that's about it.
How do you push the Force away if you're not using the Force?
She's actively pushing it away is how she like describes it, and I just was like, I just got infuriated by that scene, and I like turned it off.
It's like you kind of have to like trick your mind being in a state of what you were before you learned how to listen to and use the Force. Like that's the best I could see it happening, but like yeah, just it's crazy.
Or you can just be some kid on a slave planet, sweeping up some stuff and just start moving a broom
Know
around.
what's going to happen before it happens.
like
Yeah.
an electric boogaloo, just playing with the broom,
Oh yeah. No, you could be dancing on the ceiling like an electric boogaloo.
It just reinforces to me that these people, like, they really have no understanding of Star Wars. And we saw this with Shaban. You were talking about it earlier, Phil, where he's like they actively are talking about getting rid of canon, and it's freeing, and that's something that they want to do, and obviously they've done that with Star Wars, and it seems like that's what they want to continue to do instead of building on what made the franchise great and what makes it, I think, unique, especially is the idea of the Force, and then the whole like redemption that you can achieve through the Force.
But that requires them to do research and study. They don't want to do that.
And
they want to make up their own stories as they go.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is that like you see, Marvel you have like their collection of what is it? Marvel Unlimited, where they have all those comics available. DC has it on DC Universe. A lot of that stuff you can still find it. It's all there. You can, if you know where to look, you can find a lot of that stuff. So it shouldn't be that hard to research it. Obviously, it takes time. But even then, like with Star Wars, I mean, for the basis of the Force, look at what Lucas did in the original trilogy, in the prequels, and then he has specific episodes that he worked with Filoni on, where you have like the daughter and the son, when Anakin goes to that planet about the Force, and then you have Yoda when he is learning about the Force from these like basically like they're like Force creatures, and Yoda's attempting to find out the identity of Sidious, and he goes on this path of like learning about the Force and how it works. And this is why the whole idea of Palpatine somehow having the Sith within him and being able to survive is just an absolute like sham, contradicts set canon. It's just frustrating to me.
It's funny because Filoni said that there were certain rules that they had to follow. Like I was watching the Chef Show on Netflix, and they had Filoni on in one of the episodes, and they asked about Jon Favreau's character, the Paz Vizsla,
right? Whether
he would come back as a Force ghost. And Filoni said, no, there are rules. Your character died as a selfish and warfaring man, and you can't come back as a Force ghost when you're doing that kind of thing. So even Filoni knew there were rules that had to be followed in the Star Wars universe.
And he is not in charge of any of them. Wasn't in charge.
No, he's not in charge of any of that.
So they threw all that crap out the window. All right, I don't know. I'm not interested in this. It's a shame. I think they could have done something interesting. I don't know. The way they're promoting it needs some work. Who knows? Maybe the stories will be good. I'm not confident. If you go over to Disney, Star Wars is dumb. A lot of these creators have Chewbacca. We've had Chewbacca on the show here before. He does a really good job. He has a lot of these people have some interesting comments with how they look at stories and just what their personal opinions are, and it doesn't lead you to believe that these stories won't be infected with those personal opinions. Very similar to the Dana Schwartz woman from She-Hulk. But I suggest you take a look over at Disney Star Wars System. He's compiled a lot of their
It's a hell of an archive.
on certain people. So it doesn't give me confidence in a lot of their writers that stuff won't be in their writing.
Well, Soul's be involved, right?
Yeah, he's doing.
You said you liked some of his stuff.
He's doing this, the High Republic, Light of the Jedi, and then I think he's doing the comic too. No, Kavan Scott's doing the comic. No, I like his Lando miniseries. It's pretty solid. The beginning of his Darth Vader run was okay, but then he basically has Darth Vader become invincible. So he has Darth Vader get like absolutely owned by this Jedi who survived Order 66, and then like literally like basically is like ripping Vader apart, his machine parts. So it's basically like Mustafar again, and then at the end, like Vader is just like somehow just he like leaves him to like die, and then Vader I think
What was that?
I think Drew fell asleep.
It's true.
Gonna mute
No,
Drew.
did you mute it? Oh God, the poor guy fell asleep.
Yeah, I think he might have fell asleep. All right. I think this might be time to call it.
I heard it the first time. I just thought he was just sniffing or something.
But yeah, no.
I actually didn't fall asleep. It's blowing my nose. Thank you.
Oh,
Oh we were worried there for a second, buddy.
I almost fell out
I
my
was
chair.
like, oh man, this is not good.
I didn't know
Star Wars.
Mike picked it up.
Yeah, it picked it up pretty well. It sounded like you were snoring.
The first time I thought you were, it sounded like you were blowing your nose or something. The second time I was like, no, that doesn't sound like something else. I was like, oh, you fell asleep.
No, I was trying not to do it like super loud because I was like, I don't want to like
Hilarious.
sound like a freaking trumpet, but well, that was worse.
But yeah, his Lando miniseries is really good. That's some of the best Star Wars I've read. I really like that series. And then the beginning of his Vader series was solid, but then the conclusion of that first arc kind of was lackluster, and then I kind of faded off on it, and haven't like really picked up on it again. But I mean, I don't know. His stuff is it's okay. I know he did like the Daredevil. He did Daredevil too. He's like, I think he's a lawyer he was originally a lawyer, but I think I don't know if he still practices law or not. I don't know if he has any time to still practice law, given that he's doing a lot of this writing and everything. But I don't know. Just look at this artwork. This guy looks. He's like, his neck looks so stiff. These guys just look really stiff.
So he's no Adam Kubert, is what you're saying.
I don't. I'm not. I don't know. I think I actually like this pose, and she doesn't look too bad. The Wookiee looks really weird. It's their necks. I think that's why he tried to cover them. There's something like with the doesn't this just looks weird. His like head's like off center almost. Maybe it's the lightsaber in his hand. I don't know. It just looks like his head's about to like be chopped off or like fall off his body. But I don't know. This just looks like more of the same direction of Star Wars, and that nothing really new. All right. Anything else that we wanted to talk about?
The only good things they talked that I saw people talking about coming from the High Republic is the possibility of Darth Revan being introduced and a young Yoda.
Or younger.
Younger Yoda.
I mean, 700-year-old Yoda.
He would be around, right?
If they try to shoehorn Revan and change his backstory completely into that era, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna oh my god.
So right up your alley then. Yeah.
Yoda would be around there, so he would be around. So that makes sense for him. though.
Yeah, don't make
What,
sense for
Isn't
Rep.
he like 900 years old when he dies or something like that?
Yep. So
Yeah.
he's a little over middle aged, I guess.
All right. Well, we're closing in on midnight now, and I think we had a pretty good stream tonight. Covered a lot of topics. I found the Star Trek conversation highly interesting. I think that was my favorite part of this show. I did not get a video up today. Just ran out of time. I did get the script written, so I will have that up tomorrow. We're going to be talking about Amber Heard and her role, reprising her role as Mira in Aquaman. There's been some new information about that, so I'll be talking about that. It's mainly rumors, nothing confirmed yet, but I think that'll be pretty interesting. So check for that tomorrow, probably around 9 p.m. usually is when I try and get the videos up. So look for that tomorrow. What do you guys have going on? Start with you, Script Doctor.
Well, I just dropped my episode 5 review of Picard earlier this afternoon. So feel free to go check that out. I address character consistency and have a little fun about the difference between disintegration and vaporizing, since the ending of that show kind of does a little bit of both. I'm then going to have my Mandalorian Chapter 8 review finally drop probably this weekend, because I have that recorded and I've got a bunch of my stills done. I've just been slacking on it because I've had other priorities. So that'll finally end out the whole series, season 1 there. And then I'll be watching episode 6 of Picard Thursday night after the Pegasus Actual podcast with my good friend to my left, Drew. And you should check that out tomorrow, 9 o'clock, right? 9 o'clock? Yeah.
9 o'clock. Yes.
Hashtag find Boxy.
Okay, oh God, yes. We need more Boxy series.
All right, Drew, take it away.
All right, so as Script Doctor mentioned, we are doing Pegasus Actual Podcast tomorrow. We will be doing season 1, episode 8 on our retro review. That is Flesh and Bone, right, SD? Flesh and
Yes.
Bone? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Flesh and Bone.
Yep, that's Flesh and Bone. Huge Katie Sackhoff episode. So if you guys are Starbuck fans, come in tomorrow because that's a very Starbuck heavy episode. It'll be fun to talk about. Interesting little side details for you guys that do catch the podcast every week. We have started actually trying to reach out for Battlestar guests. I tried to get a Twitter campaign going to get Trisha Helfer on the podcast. So hopefully we could keep that train rolling, and we can eventually get Trish on, because I think she would be a good guest, especially after.
You think?
Well, especially after the reaction she had when they came up with the idea for Sam Esmail's show. So I got a lot of questions. I love that.
I bet a couple of them involve like dates and phone numbers and a proposal.
No, because Katie Sackhoff, that terrible.
Oh, okay. Okay, there we go.
The other thing is that I want to go into tomorrow and check Bounding into Comics in the morning, because John already has this. He's just got to edit it, throw it up on the site. We've got Battlestar Galactica news, a little bit with the new DLC that's out for the Battlestar Galactica Deadlock game. And I also wanted to get into the tie-in that they have with the new DLC, and the little there's a nice little obscure piece of Battlestar that fans may not know of. That is Battlestar Galactica Blood and Chrome. It was originally released on Machinima's YouTube channel, and that was supposed to be a pilot of a first Cylon War series with Young Adama, and that never made it. But that was a good, nice little web series that they had, and the game sort of ties in with the lore of that, with the Ghost Fleet and everything. So I'm going to expand on that tomorrow, and we'll have a talk about that before we go into our retro review. So make sure you check out my channel, youtube.com/Supreme Heretic. And of course, I write under my real name, Drew Taylor, on Bounding into Comics.
All right. Don, you're up.
Yeah. All right. So I got some stuff that I put up on the website every week, every other day or something, depending on what kind of news comes out. So look for my stuff on Bounding into Comics. Also trying to get my YouTube page up. I'm eventually going to have a YouTube video up soon. Surprise when it comes up, because editing is hell. So
And your YouTube channel is Dollfied, right?
Dollfied, yeah.
All right. Phil?
You can find most of my content on Bounding into Comics. I'm trying to get at least 2 articles out per week. Sometimes I'm lucky enough to get 4. Other than that, you can also find me on Street Racing SRI_ magazine. It's a magazine run with a friend of mine. We're going to go, hopefully we're going print soon, so just keep an eye on that. Otherwise, again, you could find me about it in the comics. We're talking on Twitter every so often. I don't really get into arguments, so don't try. Have a nice day.
All right. And we do this every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, Bounding Live, where we talk about the latest headlines and news in geek pop culture. So we'll see you next Wednesday at 9 p.m. and make sure to look for our video about Amber Heard tomorrow. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Good night,
Hey,
everybody.
guys.